What is up, guys? We're back. Number 4 with TBF Gaming. They do a YouTube channel with a lot of different gaming going on over there. Some streaming on Twitch. We'll have both of those links in the description of the video. If you're a small or medium-based content creator or just want to sit down and have a chat like this with me, feel free to hit me up. Find me on Discord. Find me on Twitter. All the other places that you can chat me on. Comment down below here. Let me know. I'd love to talk to you. Stay tuned. Straightforward. I don't put any pressure on this. This is pretty low key.
Gotcha.
Well, firstly, I want to say thank you for being willing to chit chat with me. I'm always like fishing around for some people to talk to about some of the stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was excited when you floated the ideas of doing something like this. This is kind of something I've wanted to do on the side, away from the normal YouTube stuff anyway.
Oh yeah, so more into like trying the podcast thing out.
Yeah, I have a second YouTube channel that I don't want to even talk about right now, but it's only got a few subs on it because I'm trying to do some other stuff, just like movies, comics, just different things other than just video games.
Oh, cool. I feel like it's kind of natural though. I feel like maybe, I don't know, for me, I felt like I stuck with something that I was comfortable with, and now I'm kind of like, I want to do this other stuff too.
Exactly. We kind of get stuck into what we're doing.
For sure. So how long is and it's just been YouTube, right?
Mainly YouTube. I do Twitch a little bit. It's not too much over there, but mainly just the YouTube side of it. Man, 4 or 5 years now, maybe a little longer.
Okay.
I just started as a little side thing. I think probably like most people that play Ark, watching Slipgator and the other big guys back in the day, kind of we're all like, man, we want to create a channel. Me and my son were sitting there watching, like, let's create a channel. So created the channel and then uploaded a few videos. They're really bad. I keep them up on the channel just so they're there, but they're bad, like the early ones. Not that the new ones are much better, but
I keep the old ones up there too on purpose. I think I've actually caught myself going back to watch some of the older ones.
Yeah. I think the only thing that bothers me is the audio. The audio is so bad.
That's always been something I've struggled with, to be honest with you. Like,
really, your audio's always sounded great in the videos.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's because it's me, and it's probably because I hear it multiple times, right? Like, so I hear myself when I record it. And then, especially when I was doing more of the gaming stuff, you go through the audio that you hear it probably 3 or 4 or 5 times sometimes. So I get a little hypercritical of it, I guess.
Oh, that's definitely true. I'm definitely one of the biggest critics myself. Yeah, I didn't really think about the fact that you know, while you're doing it and then listening to it again, and then sometimes you might check it on YouTube. So hear myself way too often.
Yeah, I'm sure part of it's probably like subliminal for me anyway, or like subconscious maybe. I don't know, but yeah, I've definitely been overly critical of that one. But so that was, I guess that was kind of what I was going to roll into next. So you just kind of this was just an idea because of other Ark YouTubers. You were just like, let me try this out, let me see how it goes.
Yeah, mainly Ark in the beginning, just watching a bunch of those videos, and I was like, man, we could do that, and we kind of followed our play style off of watching those videos, and so it just kind of made sense to do our own videos off of it and make like long seasons of going through the different maps and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. And then I do a little bit of Twitch and on the side a little bit, and then I've branched out a little bit outside of Ark, but it's mainly Ark over the last several years. Although last about 6 months, I've kind of really scaled back on Ark, trying to put some other stuff out there so I can see if the channel can still survive once, you know, if Ark dies or if some of the ill will towards Ark continues.
Yeah, I think actually, yeah, that's a bit of a topic for sure. But I kind of did the same thing, just trying other games out to see what might stick. Plus, I feel like you might cater to a different audience or even a bigger audience at that point, right? I mean, there's plenty of people out there that don't play Ark or don't have any interest in it. So trying something else out might be able to bring in some other people too.
No, I think that's a good point. I've actually had a couple conversations like this on Twitter with, you know, Jade Plays Games. He talks about this a lot. He's actually of the belief that you should stick with one game to build up that core audience. So I'm not really sure. And I've seen different people say different things, because a lot of people say that if you do the variety, it actually thins out your total population. Because like people that watch my Ark don't watch 7 Days to Die, and people that watch 7 Days to Die don't really watch Ark. Like there's not really a lot of cross-pollination. Like there's a few people that do, but...
I can relate to that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think it probably depends on how you start out, right? Like, I imagine if you just out of the gate, like I did, like, and I think you did too, with just one focused game over and over and over again, the audience kind of gets used to just that. So when you throw something new, they're not really sure about it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. This is a pretty constant conversation. Like I've been lucky enough to have a few different YouTubers that I get to bounce ideas off of, and I think we're all in kind of that same boat, especially because we're all in that same like size range. You know, anywhere from like 1,000 up to like I don't know what the number is that it becomes easier, becomes really worth it, but I imagine it's way larger than where I'm at.
Same, yeah. Same. What you're at? What, like round 17 or 18K, right around there?
I'm closing in on 18, but it goes slow every time I get a little closer.
Yeah. You know what? I had when I had the podcast on with Buddy, and his advice was to not check the analytics for like a month. I've been trying my best to do that, but even that, it's kind of hard. It's really hard.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, I listened to that one. Yeah, he had a lot of good advice, really, but it's really hard not to check the analytics because part of you says like, well, I should dive into it so I could really understand it. But I think we key in too much on the negative stuff, and it ends up not helping you as much as you had hoped it would. And just in general, it's the watch pot never boils. If you sit there and watch the sub count, it just goes really slow. But if you just check in it once a month, you're like, oh man, I gained a few hundred this month.
It's kind of like watching the clock at work.
Yeah. Yeah, that thing goes backwards, I'll tell you that.
It does, man. And that's for sure the truth.
Definitely. And I assume you started the same way, right? Like, because I know I started watching your channel years ago, watching all the you did a lot of guides. Like that's kind of where I think a lot of people end up finding your channel through the art guides and mod spotlights.
For sure. Yeah. So I started doing like speed builds. Just because it was easier for me to just record that and edit it and sort of understand the editing process and play around with it a little bit. So that's what I started doing with ARC specifically, nothing else. Yeah, and then it kind of divulged into the tutorial and then the mod review stuff, mainly because for me, it was just what I was comfortable with. So that's what I wanted. I wanted to, if I wasn't comfortable with anything else that I was doing, at least I was comfortable with that, the subject at hand, maybe.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was God, yeah, it was about like 5 or 6 years ago too, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how quick it goes. I think a lot of people got into it right around that time. And I think you probably joined about the same time as I did. There was no monetization rules, or there was, but it was really easy. So I was monetized really early on, and I made like not a lot, like a few dollars here and there, like in the first few days, and then they switched it to that 1,000 subs and whatever watch time.
No, I actually had to do that. Yeah.
Did you? Oh, okay. So I joined right before that, so I might be a little bit older.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, it was like you had to have 1,000 subs and 4,000 hours of watch time within a certain time period. And honestly, the only reason I hit it as quickly as I did is because I had a shout out from a really big YouTuber who's still doing it, Mr. Miola, actually. And he had actually did a big shout out for one of the builds that I did. He used it in an actual game. And if it wasn't for that, it wouldn't have shot up nearly as quick. Yeah, the hours aren't too difficult, even if there's not a lot of people watching in the beginning, because you can simply just keep putting out more videos and that compensates for
definitely.
it. But the 1,000 subs in the beginning, I was like, I am never getting here. God, that was a climb.
That first 1,000 is definitely hard. Yeah, actually, I was lucky enough too. It was like the first time I was ever cool in my son's eyes. I got a shout out from Miola like about 2 years ago, and like instantly jumped like 1,000 or 2,000 subs. He's genuinely a really nice guy.
He really is. He's actually one of the few that I see that like specifically shouts out a lot of the smaller peeps. And I think that's cool.
Well, especially because I think there's so much cross-pollination. Like how many times did you start a playthrough and you think you're doing something original, and then you look and you're like, oh crap, this other person's doing the same playthrough I'm doing or a similar one. Like that happens just way too often.
And it also helps. And for me, sometimes you would I would sometimes do it on purpose where I wouldn't do the exact same thing, but a part of it.
Yeah.
So pull a little inspiration here and there.
So, yeah, I always try to hold back a little bit with them if someone else is already doing the playthrough. Same.
Yeah, you kind of have to. You don't want to completely step on toes sometimes, I feel like. Not that I think any of the bigger YouTubers would really care, honestly. I think it's just for me. I probably would. I don't know. Like they're all doing their thing. Like I don't think they care.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do, but I definitely I'll see it in the comments sometimes. Like I'll see like like, oh, are you only doing this playthrough because so and so is doing it? I'm like, oh, I didn't know they were, but that's awesome. I'm gonna go check it out. Like, and I just respond with positivity back to them. But it's just usually people in the comments get a little crazy about it.
Yeah. Man, yeah. I've had an interesting experience with like negative comments. Like sometimes I've allowed myself to engage in that negative confrontation and just say, okay, let's play this game. And then I realize later on, I'm like, that was such a waste of my energy. It really
completely,
was.
completely. And I'm a big believer in on the outside of YouTube, like real life. I've been an instructor for several years. I'm actually military, but I've been an instructor, and
Okay.
I'm really big on impact. I think that I talk about impact all the time, like the way that you impact others, either how you respond to them or how you initially greet them. I think that's big. So a lot of times people will come really negative in a comment and I'll respond really nicely back to them. And then I'll get another comment. They're like, oh man, I didn't mean anything by it, man. Thanks so much for what you do. I was like, man, that first comment wasn't coming that way though.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Cause I have the times that I have done that, probably a solid 80% of the time. That's exactly what happens. It's like, yeah, maybe they're reanalyzing what they said and realized they didn't say it the right way or the way that they wanted to originally.
So,
yeah.
Oh no, definitely. And the way that text works, anyways, you're not reading and sending the same thing. If you've ever seen the skit from Key and Peele, the text messages back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
the one guy sends, yeah, it's fine, whatever, and the other guy reads it's fine, whatever. What?
Exactly. Yeah, like you can't hear tone or see body language or any of that stuff. Like it's hard.
100%.
But so was gaming always the thing for you? You've been doing that for a while, or?
Oh yeah, I've always been a pretty avid gamer. Like especially on like deployments where you're in like an area where it's not a bad area or anything like that, and you can actually play some games. You end up sitting down and playing a lot. So it's pretty normal to put a lot of time into gaming, and then even with the family and everything, pretty much the whole family games other than my wife. But yeah, always been a pretty avid gamer from the Xbox days. Like you started on PC on YouTube, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, my first few videos, I believe, are on the Xbox because I didn't have I had a really cheap laptop that I set OBS up on, and I didn't really know how to record. So I think the first one I actually just streamed to like whatever the Xbox version of streaming was for a minute there.
Mixer?
And then uploaded to YouTube. I think that's what it was.
That would have been Microsoft. I think that was Mixer, yeah.
Yeah, it was something. It was definitely, I don't know what, like 120p. I don't know what it was.
It was probably I mean, it was Microsoft. It was probably Mixer. Yeah,
that sounds about right.
I was kind of shocked they went down, to be honest with you. I didn't see that coming.
Well, yeah, especially after they brought over a couple, like they brought over some names, and you're like, okay, they're going to get this going, and they had supposedly put a lot of money into it, but
they brought, I think it was like Ninja and then Shroud or somebody else, and then I was like, man, they're making some big moves. Maybe they're competing, and then the next thing I know, they closed down. I'm like, wow, that was, somebody lost some money there.
No, it was definitely quick.
It's kind of shocking though, especially when it's like, if it's just like some little company startup doing it, then you kind of almost expect it. But it's like, it's Microsoft. Like your budget is almost infinite at this point. Like, but I guess they just weren't getting what they wanted out of it. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a few other that I've seen pop up recently too. There's one like, oh man, I can't even think. There's been a couple really small ones pop up out of nowhere. I think Kick or something like that was one of them. There was
Kick is the one that I've probably looked at the most, which I mean, it looks like Twitch with a couple different colors, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I clicked on the one time when someone was streaming to it. It was definitely familiar.
Yeah, I think that they're handling like the monetization a little bit differently. And then they're also, I have to refresh my memory here, but so they're doing a bigger split as far as what Kick would take versus what the streamer would receive as far as money goes. But then there's also like a partnership. There's some way that viewers can send money to you and they actually pay it out in crypto. Or it's either that's what they were doing or that's what the long-term goal was. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was kind of a wild concept that I wasn't 100% sure about.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a weird one.
Yeah, but then they still do like the normal, the typical like followers and people can donate and stuff like that, just like anywhere. And I think you can still get like ad revenue like you would on any of the other platforms and something like that. But
Gotcha. Yeah. Did you ever really push out to any? I know you did. I think you did Twitch a little bit, but
yeah, Twitch was the only one that I've done.
Mhm.
Yeah, YouTube and Twitch really. And Twitch was kind of temporary, really. I guess I streamed on Twitch because I knew other people that were streaming on Twitch, and I was like, well, if I'm gonna stream, I must do it. I must have to do it on Twitch. But then I guess I thought about it, and I'm like, well, if everybody's watching YouTube videos, shouldn't I just stream on YouTube? Wouldn't that make a little bit more sense? So that's when I just started doing that instead, and had a lot better reaction actually.
Yeah, I think that's where I keep bouncing back and forth. There's a streamer weekend coming up, like in the next few weekends, hopefully for 7 Days to Die. They
Mhm.
always let the streamers get a hold of it as long as you have. I think the requirement's like 5,000 subs on YouTube, and I don't know what the Twitch requirement is, but if you have over a certain amount, they allow you to play the game for like a weekend early. So that's coming up. So I'm supposed to stream for that, but I just haven't had time to stream in like a year or two now.
Now, is that a new alpha version coming out for 7 days? Is
Oh
that
yeah,
what's
they're
happening?
moving to Alpha 21.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they've only been in early access for like 9 years. I'm sure they're.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, they just need to stay there. Honestly, like just keep working on it. Don't stop. Just keep going.
No, that's what they released a roadmap. I said the same thing. I was like, you know what, we make fun of it a lot, but it's been actively worked on for this long. Same with Arc, right? For all the problems that Arc has, how many
True.
games have you seen where they have put this much content just continually out over years? What Arc came out in 2014, 15, somewhere in there?
Yeah, it was 14 or 15, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah. And Arc does catch a lot of flack, and I catch myself throwing them probably more flack than I probably should some days. But yeah, you're right. I mean, how many maps and updates and deals, all that crap that they've put out, and yeah, they haven't stopped. They haven't let up at all, really.
I know they just put out something else about some giant bug. So I thought it was kind of funny that Arc's last Dino really sucked, but just a horrible joke. Probably blocked for that. But no, I think we do the same thing with Arc. I love the game Arc. Obviously, if I played it this much on the channel and I have so many hours in it, obviously I enjoy and love the game. But I think because we love it so much, that's why we're often critical of it, is because we see how great it could be, or we have those great moments in it, then it gets ruined by something sour. Like I've had, like, I think when the center map first came out, I was more excited than anything. Played it for like 2 or 3 days. It just completely wouldn't work on Xbox back in the day. Like you could load it up for like 2 minutes, then it was full freeze.
Oh yeah, it was horrible. Yeah,
Yeah.
because when I first started playing it, it was on console, and I remember that too. Like it was awesome, but it wouldn't load half the
Yeah.
time. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So yeah. So I was looking around, and it seems like you've been diving into this game Infected a bit too.
Yeah, that's been a big one. The developer over there is amazing. It's a pretty small indie game. Well, I guess it doesn't even feel that small anymore, but it was just a solo dev. I know he brought on another team to help out with like the map and some of the art assets and stuff like that, and he does most of the coding. But yeah, it's a really good game, survival game. Pretty much any survival game I really branch out, but that one's been getting some of the best response on the channel for the past couple of years, really.
Good stuff.
And it's just a fun game. So I don't know what the longevity is for it, like continuing forward, but I'm gonna ride it till the wheels fall off probably.
Right on. So it's a small. How many people are on the team? Do you know? Or
It was just a solo dev, but I know they hired some people to help make the map and some of the art assets, but I'm not exactly sure how big they are. But I've spoken to the dev a couple of times. He's actually reached out a couple of times, like really friendly. Has been works on bug fixes like crazy. Like you can do a little bug report, and then I linked my video, and then he messaged me on it, and he's like, hey, I watched the video. Can you send me your save file from your game, and I'll see if I can replicate the problem. So I sent him the save file, and then a few minutes later, he's like, hey, this is the problem. I'll have it fixed by the end of the day. I was like, holy cow, that's insane.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And a lot of the people have the same response with it. Like he's making a good game over there, and he's got a very steady like vision of what he wants to do with it. Cause we're all like, hey, are you going to add guns? And he's like, no, that's not part of the game's future. And like, okay, cool. At least you have your vision of what you want to stick with.
Yeah. That's awesome that he's that accepting and that on top of things too. It tells you he's really passionate about what he's doing, clearly.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and it's always good to see, especially because if you've played a lot of these early access or smaller games, I've been bit by a few of them where we put a lot of time into it or even a lot of money into it, and then the developer just abandons it, or
Just
and
kind of
sometimes
quits.
sometimes with like a Dark and Light or Atlas, or I guess Atlas is still technically updated, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't really looked into it much lately, but I saw they've put something out recently.
Man, they had such potential with that.
Did you were you there for the launch of that one?
No, it was not. I was not.
That was one of the
I
worst
tried it
launches ever.
not too long after that, but I heard about it was yeah, yikes.
Oh, it was bad. Pretty much like everyone loads into the same little starter island,
Mm.
and when they logged off, their body was still there, and you had to build a campfire for the starter mission. So there's like 10,000 campfires on the starter beach, and you couldn't move more than. It took us like 30 minutes to get out of the starter town, out to the little island. It was bad. Once you got away, we could play a little bit, but it was hard to get away.
Oh man, but that was wild card as well, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
it was, is that Grape Shot, or I can't remember. It's one of the like smaller subsidiaries. The same thing with Dark and
Yeah.
Light. If you ever played Dark and Light, Dark and Light was phenomenal. It was very arc, but with magic, basically.
I think I did really early on. I think I did. Yeah, I did. The name definitely sounded familiar.
Yeah, and a lot of
I
the
thought,
arc modders went over to that one too, and then the developers just stopped updating and never sent the dev kit back out to them after the last update, and then just kind of disappeared.
just kind of dropped them. Man, that's a
Yeah.
bummer. Especially when you get a following of people that really want to see it happen. That's I mean, I guess it's one thing if something legitimately happens, a personal event, something like that, you let people know, but just a cold walk away from it like that, it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it was definitely kind of a cash grab kind of thing, because the files were still named the same as Arc. Like when the game first came out, like you went down into the actual files, things were still named Arc. It was just Arc assets, just slightly reskinned to be, Oceanic. But it's still I'm sorry, I'm getting the two games mixed up. But Atlas was that way, and then Dark and Light was the same. They both had, like, if you do like the admin commands, they have the same admin commands.
No, I know Atlas did. Yeah, that part I
Yeah.
did know. Like a lot of things were the same. It was basically like a reskin to Arc, basically.
Yeah,
That
yeah. I
point,
might have got it mixed up
which-
there, but I know for
okay.
sure that was a big thing with them.
Yeah, that was a bummer. Well, I think the other problem with Arc at that time was that they were doing Primitive Plus, which was basically Atlas.
Yeah.
And I was like, and they were like, we're going to make a whole nother game. I'm like, well, you already had this. Why don't you just fix this and then you're good?
Oh, I know. Primitive Plus, one of the great, just unfinished things. I wish they would have fleshed that out. That's kind of what we thought Arc would be. Like, we thought it would be more of that before it started getting into, guns and electronics and crazy stuff.
Yeah,
later.
when it started melding into the sci-fi, like a part of me liked it, but part of me was like, this doesn't really feel correct. But
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, from the island to Genesis, you're not playing the same game for sure.
For sure. Yeah, but I am kind of reverting back to what we were talking about with the Dark and Light. I think I find myself a bit more attracted to a lot of these like smaller indie games that come out, though.
No, I agree completely.
It just seems like there's a little bit more creativity in a way. Like I feel like sometimes with the bigger games you make, it's very almost cookie cutter, especially if it's a series sometimes. I don't know, but it's a gamble. Like, right, are they going to stick with it? Are they not going to stick with it? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, when it feels that way on the larger games too, because you're getting such a higher price point. There was that game that just came out, Redfall.
I did not pick it up, but I heard
it's an Xbox exclusive. But it was I had it on Game Pass, so I didn't have to pay for it. But had I paid full price for it, I would have been a little upset. It was definitely just it was just very unfinished, like a very like shell of a game.
Wow.
Like, what was there was fun. There just wasn't enough there.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, because the trailers looked cool. A lot of people were really excited about it. But when you're running around the town, there's no enemies for like 10 minutes at a time. Like, it was just really weird.
Just empty, missing. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like it.
That's kind of how No Man's Sky was when I first started playing it. Actually, it was pretty empty.
Yeah, there you go. There's a good example of a smaller team that, well, I guess maybe they're a smaller team, but build it from a small game into something completely different. That game has changed a lot.
Oh yeah, it's a whole lot of fun. Well, I wasn't nearly as invested because I didn't play it when it launched, so a lot of the negative vibes that it caught. I didn't have any skin in the game, so I didn't really care.
Yeah.
So I picked it up later on, and even later on, there was times where it felt like incredibly empty, and then now it's completely different. I don't know. It's the gaming industry, as far as like from a company standpoint, has just changed so dramatically over the years. It feels like, to the point where all of these independent artists are now coming out with these crazy good games. Like I think like I kind of equate that to like Valheim, a game that just small company slid under the radar and was like this huge hit. And then some of these big AAAs can't seem to get a game released on time.
Valheim is definitely a really good example. That game is really built. I know when they had their first couple weekends, it was like one of the largest total people playing at one time on Steam or something like that at the time.
That was a huge one. Yeah, they made a lot of money off that, and they stuck with it. Thank God. That's really cool.
Yeah, they just put out not just, but just recently had one of the updates for it. Another one that's interesting like that is V Rising.
I've seen
that. We just started to serve up on that.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of gameplay of it. I haven't really dove into it too much.
Yeah, it's a little different because it's kind of like a top-down view, almost like a Diablo looking.
Yeah, it's definitely what do they call it? Isometric kind of.
Yeah. But it's definitely a fun game. It's got some of the cooler boss fights. We've been playing that in our Discord, and one of the games to kind of get us away from Ark. So, what are you playing now if you're not doing much Ark now?
Well, yeah, I haven't touched Ark, to be honest with you. I haven't touched it at least, but I was playing No Man's Sky for a while. They had an update for an expedition that came out, so I was playing that for a bit.
Okay.
I was actually thinking about streaming last weekend, but I had like a whole boatload of things happen at one time, and it just wasn't feasible. So me and a couple people were probably going to stream Icarus. I've been playing that again. They've put out a lot of updates for that one as well.
They have a persistent world now, right? Don't they? Where you can stay on the same map.
You can choose, yeah. Like, so you can either play a persistent world and just kind of do your own thing and stay there as long as you want, or you can do the missions, which I think I actually find a little bit more enjoyment out of.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because at first I was like, this is going to get redundant quick, because the game essentially drops you into a planet to do X, Y, Z, and then you evac off the planet. And then the next mission, you drop back on the planet again. So the early game almost seems like it might get incredibly repetitive really quickly. But because of how the game mechanic works with the reward system of evacuating out, you can come in with things that you don't have to work to get, right? So like you can come in with the crafting materials or the weapons or the equipment already. So the early game it seems like the more and more you progress through the missions, the early game gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
Gotcha. Gets expedited. Okay.
It does. So yeah, I find a lot of enjoyment out of that, but I'm sure I'll probably want to do the other one as well. And
I'll have to definitely revisit that game.
And then War Tales, actually. I just started playing War Tales.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that one at all.
Think of like maybe not, I can't really compare it with Diablo. Think of it like old school, like I don't know if you played Baldur's Gate, any of the Baldur's Gate series on PC. Think of it as very much like that, but it's very like you build the whole band of people that you have, and you're just these adventuring group out here doing quests and missions, and you're roaming around to different locations and involving yourself in plot lines if you want to, but all the combat's like turn-based, kind of like how Baldur's Gate could have been. Yeah.
Okay.
It's very, I would say that's probably that's the one I would compare it to. And it's very much like a turn-based, like you build your characters up almost in a way like XCOM might have been, but more of like a fantasy Dungeons and Dragons sort of feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I haven't seen that one. I remember Baldur's Gate quite a bit, but I'll have to check that one out.
I would say if you enjoyed Baldur's Gate, you would probably enjoy it. And now there's Baldur's Gate 3. It's supposed to actually like release. I think in like August or something like that.
Yeah, I find myself going into when I'm not doing something like YouTube related, because it's hard for me to sit on the computer and play something and not record, because I think that I have to. So if I'm just gonna hang out, I go sit on the Xbox and play. I've been jumping into like the old Assassin's Creeds and there's a couple other ones that I launched recently. The Arkham games, just some random ones, just kind of like really easy to jump in, play a little bit, and jump out.
For sure. Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I definitely had to do the same thing too. Like I almost felt guilty like sitting at my desk. I'm like, I'm not recording anything. I shouldn't be here.
It does. It does. It changes your perspective on it completely.
Oh man, yeah, for sure. God, you're right. Definitely does. Definitely does. So, I guess obviously, well, not obviously, but you talked about like how you were watching a lot of other bigger content creators, and that's how
Mhm.
you started with the channel. Um, was that the only like reason? Was it a goal just to just do something fun and see where it goes? What I mean, what was the real motivation, and other than just seeing others do it? I guess.
Yeah, I don't think early on there was really any like big goal of it becoming anything. You know, there's times where it'll pop up like, you know, when you hit the like right when I hit 10,000 subs, like, oh, maybe this is going to be a thing, or maybe it will continue to grow enough to be actually worthwhile. And in terms
Mhm.
of YouTube revenue, obviously, it's definitely not. But with the patron stuff, it kind of averages out a little bit. We average anywhere from 80 to 120 patrons depending on the month,
Nice.
and we turn around. We try to make sure we always put 80% of that back into servers,
Mhm.
and we've gotten a little bloated lately. I think we're running like 9 or 10 servers right now. It's a little intense.
Wow.
But
Okay. And
yeah,
you're adminning all these too, or do you have like a group of people helping you out? Or
luckily I've got a group of like 5 to 8 uh, moderators that help out with it quite a bit. A couple of them will help with the server setup, depending on like we play Empyreon. I don't know how to do that at all. Good friend of mine, Mark, does all the setups for that. So I just get to jump on and play for that. And then the Arc ones, I'm pretty good with the Ionize there, so I do that. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's definitely a good balancing act. I've got a really good group of people that help out quite a bit.
Okay. So I mean, I guess maybe I didn't phrase it correctly. I'm still getting used to this
Mhm.
myself. Like, so was it just the YouTube career? Was it just the YouTube making videos? Is there something? Was there like a passion behind like video editing or any of that stuff?
Oh, not really, because it was all just learn on the fly. Like I never had seen Photoshop or Adobe Premiere, which is what I use now. I think when I
Mhm.
first started, I used something called Lightworks or something like that. It was a free program that I could edit
Mhm.
videos with. I started with that, and then obviously OBS. But no real nothing really pulled me into it like that. Now that I've been into it a little bit longer, I enjoy the editing side of it a little bit more than the
Yeah.
actual recording of a lot of the gameplay. No, I don't like editing my gameplay, but I enjoy learning how to do some of the edit stuff. There's a couple videos where I've tried to do like cool little cinematic intros or something like that, like where the title blends into the background and just stuff like that you'll see on some of the bigger channels. And I've learned to do some of that. Now having the time to do it, not always a thing, but
I
I
found
definitely
a
try.
new.
But no,
I have
when I
like a
first started,
newfound
definitely no other
respect.
motives.
I have like a newfound respect for, I think ever since like learning how to do the videos is like watching like the first like 20 seconds to an intro of like a TV show.
Yeah.
Like just like, God, that must have took it forever.
I think about
But
that too, for sure.
yeah, good grief. Yeah. I don't know. I think I kind of just, I don't know. I was probably so damned overwhelmed when the idea of editing, but I, it definitely appealed to me to a degree. But there are certain things that I definitely struggled with, but there were certain things that I definitely enjoy more through the editing process. Now, would you say that you enjoy like doing the playthroughs, or did you enjoy? I know you haven't been able to stream in a little bit, but did you enjoy streaming more, or just content creation?
Yeah, I definitely I'm not too much into the streaming side of it. I think when I'm recording, I can sit here and I can have an upbeat voice and get real into it. But
Hmm.
when I'm streaming, I feel like you have to like kind of turn a little bit of a switch on and not act, but you know, be not in character. I don't know what the right word for it is, but basically, you know, you have to be turned on when it comes to the streaming side of it. I feel like you just way more engaged. Whereas with
Hmm.
the recording, you know, it's just more laid back. So I think the streaming side of it is always a little daunting to me.
I agree. I agree. I hear people go back and forth, and I think it depends. I don't know what it depends on. Maybe just the personality, I think, is what it comes down to. Like if you're a kind of person that's usually
Mhm.
kind of on all the time anyway, then I think streaming is probably a little bit easier for you. But I hear what you're saying. I didn't like all. There was definitely days that where I would like go to start a stream, and I'm like, I don't want to do this at all. Like I
Yeah,
don't want
I
to.
feel that right before. Whereas, you know, with the recording and then editing, it's more curated, so you can cut out some of your dumb stuff. Or if I'm struggling with an intro that day, because I struggle with intros sometimes. I've had to work through a lot of different speech issues, so whenever I do an intro, a lot of times I'll mess up the intro 2, 3, 4, 5 times before I finally get it right. And then after that, I'm good, I'm flowing. But just that first little bit of the intro. So if I'm streaming, there's no going back. I just have to deal with the stutter, or the struggle.
Yeah, you just yeah, well, yeah, because when you're putting out that video, that intro, that first 20 to 30 seconds is super important. So if there's any slip up there, that it could immediately turn somebody off to something. Yeah, man,
Yeah.
you're right there for sure. Would you say that's one of the bigger challenges you've hit with like the video editing process and recording?
Just the amount of editing depends. I think that's why I'm really enjoying the Infected, because the way that the days work out, pretty much one day is one recording, and it's pretty much hit record, work for a full day, and then hit stop. And I'm maybe doing like 1 or 2 cuts, like if I sneeze or something like that. But other than that, it's been very
So
limited
it's just
editing.
straight from
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Whereas Arc, especially with Arc, when you get into some of the bigger modded playthroughs, I'm not going to make them sit and watch me gather stone for 25 minutes and those kind of things. So that's all getting cut out. So it might be a 30-minute video, but it was probably anywhere from 1 to 4 hours of recording for one video. On a bad day. That's not always the way, but
yeah, I can. Yeah, it's kind of weird how that works. Sometimes everything just clicks and it works out within an hour. But yeah, I definitely feel the same way. Like nobody wants to sit there and watch you take a pickaxe to a rock for an hour. So you have to cut that part out. Yeah. Oh man. I don't know if I'm trying to figure out exactly how I wanted to word it, but I think I just kind of like lost track. I'm flaky today. It's been a long day.
I get it, man.
So as far as like challenges with like creating content in general, maybe not just the recording, but maybe just like understanding the algorithm, maybe understanding YouTube or Twitch when you were streaming on Twitch, like what sort of problems have you like ran into there where you've had to figure out how to get past that?
I think I'm definitely understanding like how it works a lot better now, like the importance of a title and thumbnails. But I've always been pretty adverse to like I try not to do like too clickbaity of titles. I don't like doing that. And then the big thing now is the AI thumbnails. A lot of people are switching to that, and that just doesn't feel right to me. So a lot of those things is a challenge for me not to go. I know that I could probably use those things and it would help. Or what's the new thing with Arc, right? The meta with Arc right now is the 100 days, right? I survived 100 days in whatever. And I just can't bring myself to do a video like that, even though I think they're great videos. The people that work on them, the amount of hours they put into it, it's much respect for what they do. But doing those is really hard. In terms of just the challenges for YouTube, I struggle with a little bit of kind of being a workaholic for some things. So like right now I'm putting out 2 videos a day, almost every single day, which is just too much for a channel my size.
Damn. 2 a day?
Yeah, no, it's but I have a pretty
long
recording
videos.
schedule.
Yeah.
For the Infected, it's like 40 minutes, but Arc I try to limit it like 20 or 30. But I just find myself wanting to put out a lot of different games, and then I feel bad if I cut out certain things, and it's really just a me mental thing, like, oh man, I didn't put out an Arc video in a couple days, or I didn't put out my Infected daily the last couple days, so I feel guilty if I don't, or I don't know. It's definitely something that I've had to struggle with a little bit to kind of pull myself away from it, and I'm gonna, in August I think I'll be moving over to a new job. And my time's going to go way down. So I'll be going back to 1 video a day at that point, but I'm not really sure how to schedule it yet.
Yeah. So, I think you kind of talked about that a little bit. So are you like recording ahead of time, or are you going like straight to record, straight to edit, straight to upload? Like, is there any buffer time there? Are you ahead of schedule at all, or how does that working for you?
No, normally on a Saturday or Sunday, I'll sit down and I'll get up at like 5 or 6 a.m. and I'll record for 5-6 hours and get the whole week done with those 2 days. But lately, my work's been like super minimal, like working from home half the time. So the amount of time I can put into it, like Infected, I record each day. I record, and that's because I'm feeding off the comments from the previous one. Because especially Arc doesn't get a lot of comments, but these other games tend to get way more comments than what Arc does. And that's just in general, like across all channels. I even see that like Arc people just don't leave quite as many comments. Even on like the bigger channels, you'll see a really good set of views, but their comments compared to other channels with the same views is a lot lower. I'm not really sure why.
Yeah, that's kind of strange. Yeah, you would figure. I mean, I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of the same genre, the same niche. You would figure there would be some interest. I don't know. It's kind of odd. It's kind of odd, but I like what you said about kind of being on top of it, because being on top of the recording and then throwing it out, because then you can feed off the comments immediately of the previous video. Where if you were ahead 2, 3, 4 episodes, then it might not work out that way. And I think that's kind of a two-edged sword that I ran into, because I wanted to record ahead of time so that I could put them all out and not be as like kind of stressed out about it. But at the same time, you miss out because you can't implement something that somebody might have brought a really good point to, but you're 3 episodes ahead, so you can't really throw it in there just yet. Yeah,
exactly. They're like, I told you 3 episodes ago, you just have to use the chainsaw. Like, I promise I'm getting to it on Saturday's video.
Eventually, I will get there. So this is 2 videos a day, 7 days a week.
Pretty much, yeah. I think I'll skip like a Saturday or Sunday here and there, but yeah, like I said, I tend to put myself way too into it, and then that's on top of still managing all the servers and full-time parent and husband and all that stuff too. But yeah, just it schedules everything.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, man, we'll get to that, I'm sure. So I mean, you said, are you still in the military now, or?
Yeah. I'm actually transitioning out in August after 20 years. So
20 years. What branch?
Army.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah. That's what I've actually never talked about it. I don't really talk about it in videos, and I just recently started talking about it in my Discord. Like, some people knew behind the scenes, but it was something I kind of just didn't really talk about much. But
yeah,
now that it's almost over, now I can kind of talk about it. Plus, technically, you're not allowed to have a second job while you're in the Army, so so I was kind of quiet about doing the YouTube thing on the side.
Yeah, I think you're pretty close to being out, so it doesn't matter anymore. plus, yeah, I guess it depends.
No, I should be good now.
Yeah. Plus, it depends on. I mean, what do they really classify as a job, right? Like, it depends on like what sort of. Well, I guess you could do. Yeah, there's probably no way of skating around that. Yeah, it's probably a job. It's a source of income in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, 20 years. Definitely. Wow. So was that always a calling for you to be in the military, or what was that like?
Oh no, I joined just for college money, and I was gonna do 4 years, get out, and then it was way too easy. It's just I mean, Army's not easy, but in terms of like just the way I think I like the rigidity of it, the fact that everything is scheduled and everything's on a timeline. I think I've always liked that, but yeah, no, it was just. So I was doing 4 years for sure. At the end of 4 years, I said, let me do a couple more, and then re-enlisted once, and then that happened a couple times. And right around the 10-year mark, I was for sure getting out. I had a job lined up. I was maybe 90 days from getting out. It was so close. And the wife came and said those special words that I'm pregnant. So I was like, all right, let me re-enlist one more time, because she would have had the baby like in between insurance. I was like, oh man, we can't afford a baby. We have to give it back. We ended up so we ended up re-enlisting then, and then once you go over 10, you're pretty much what they call indefinite all the way to 20. So then that's been the last several years, and I'm just over 20 now. And for the military, you have to apply for retirement, and it finally just got approved. And then August 1st is my last day doing that, and then I'm gonna turn around and work on post still, being an instructor still. So it's gonna be fun.
Good stuff, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I find so. I have the I get to work around a lot of people that are in the military, a lot of different branches, and in my experience, I almost felt like that's to a degree what you'd said was almost a little common, where the idea was, I'm going to go in for 4 years, do it for school, and then bump out, and then 10 years later they're still there. So I almost feel
definitely.
Like maybe,
I think a lot of us end up joining because we don't have a direction.
Yeah, it just kind of, that's the only option, or the only foreseeable option, you think?
More so, just not that it's the only option, but I was doing college, but I was pretty bored with it. I think it was just one of those moments in my life. If someone came to me with a better proposal, I would have went that way. But the Army guy happened to talk to me, and he's like, "Yeah, come in and talk to me." I was like, "All right, but I'm not joining." And then a couple weeks later, I'm signed up, and I signed up eight days before 9/11.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. So pretty much signed up, then shortly after that left, and then shortly after that deployed. So the first first 5 to 8 years were pretty fast paced. But I'm Signal. I'm not anything super cool or hardcore or anything like that. I'm just the radio guy.
Understood. Still though, wow, yeah, that's yeah. I guess I get both sides to it. I get like I kind of ran into it, but then I've also talked to people that are like, nope, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. This is what I wanted to do, and I knew it. And man, I was talking to Bearded Sensei on the last recording that we did, and
Mhm.
if I had to count any, I don't have very many regrets, but that's definitely one of them. I wish I would have served, even if it would have been that 4 year. Which who knows? Maybe it would have turned into something else. I have no idea. But I don't know. There's a camaraderie there between military members that I always get to see that I'm a little envious of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From
And it
what I hear,
doesn't
the
seem to
people when they
matter.
get out, they say that's the one thing they miss. Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to matter like branch how long people there's now between the branches they will rib each other, absolutely rib each other, which I feel like is only
100%.
natural, but but there's an underlying respect there, which I think is really cool. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people miss out not going down that road. So yeah, but that's cool. So you're still basically going to be involved even after retirement, which I think is probably going to be helpful because I feel like you've been in this world for 20 years, you know?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are telling me. I should get a little further away from it, and I could use my certifications and go do some high speed IT stuff and make more money. But I really like the teaching side of it, and it's still more than what I make now when I get out and do it as a contractor. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's still the same kind of job, but don't have to get up early for working out at 5 a.m. and get to get off at a decent time. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I like it. Wow. Sorry, my mic arm is being. This thing has been falling down all day long. It's driving me crazy.
I know it's not super interesting for anyone if they're actually listening, but what kind of microphone do you have?
It's the Wave. Was it that Wave Link, whatever it's called, the Elgato one?
Oh man, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to. Yeah, I got to look into getting a new one.
I have struggled, and I think this kind of like reverts back into my audio thing. Like I struggled with trying to find the right microphone. I had more of a like I always forget the terminology between a mic that's more, I think dynamic is the one that's a bit more focused, where cardioid's like the bigger one. But I would use the cardioid ones in the beginning, and I hated it, and I didn't want to have you to use a Go XLR to like do all the audio controls and stuff like that. So I wanted a USB mic that I could use like in a Go XLR, and this was the perfect fit for it. Yeah, it's all digital,
that's
so it's like a
I got
software
the
port,
AT2020.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the digital mixture has been super easy. I like that. It took me a little bit to get used to it, but I like that I can still have I essentially have all the controls that you would have with a regular Go XLR. And then you can even download like all sorts of different plugins online to load into that Wavelength software to do all sorts of weird effects if that's the road you wanted to go down. But it very much works just like a regular Go XLR. It's just an app. That's all it is. But this arm, on the other hand, is about to get thrown in a river.
And so,
sorry, guys.
Yeah, I got one that leans across my desk same way. I actually got the camera. I was actually gonna do a camera for this, but I had to shave for work this last week, and I look ridiculous. So I had my little 90-day beard going on, and once I shaved it, I was like, I'm never getting on camera again. Like,
well, I mean, come a couple of months, you won't have to worry about that anymore, right?
Exactly. No, exactly. If we do this. If I get a chance to do this with you again in the future, I'll do the face cam. But I actually haven't done it on the channel yet either. I have a couple videos early on in the channel where I showed my face, and those got deleted later. I went back and
weren't having it. Didn't like it.
No, yeah, because I had forgotten about him, and someone in Discord, they were like, "I wonder what TBF looks like," and someone in Discord is like, "Oh, here he is." I was like, "That's messed up."
I mean, I think like the cam definitely helps out more with streaming because the audience can literally see what's going on. I've even had times where
a little bit of personalization.
Yeah, I've had times where I've streamed and the camera didn't work, and people were almost less interested because they wanted to see my reaction to something. Where with the video, it didn't really matter. It's kind of worked out. So yeah, I went down a really dumb rabbit hole where I had this idea that I was going to use a GoPro as a webcam. And
okay.
Yeah, so it was like a GoPro Hero 8 or whatever. And you had to I didn't know it. I thought I could just plug a USB up to it and hook it up to the computer, and it would just work like a champ, right? Like magic. No, it doesn't work that
Yeah,
way. You have to buy like 16 other things to get it to connect and work. And I was like,
that
good
sounds
Lord,
right.
I'm never getting rid of this camera now because I've invested too much time in it. So if I'm doing something, it's going to be on, damn it. Gonna make my
That's
money
crazy.
back off of it. That's for sure. Oh
Yeah,
man.
no, I have a little HD. What is it called? I literally just got it. I haven't even really used it yet. Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's supposed to have HD and whatever, and throw it up on top of the screen. It looks okay.
Yeah.
I just got to figure out like how to position it because like my microphone, I've got the big old what do you call it, the pop filter in front of it, so it's
Mhm.
like blocking half my face. It looks kind of silly, but I'll have to figure out how to set that up when I hopefully get it. I'm gonna try a little bit of because like, I'm gonna have basically like the next like 45 days off until we start the next job.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna try to stream a little bit during that time to kind of get used to it because
That's
that
cool.
is the next evolution of you know after you're doing this many videos, like streaming is kind of easier because you don't have to do all the editing. Pretty much just jump in and stream. So
Yeah, and I think once you get in the rhythm of doing it, I think probably
mhm.
like what we spoke about before, like
Yeah,
not being 100% on sometimes. I think once you get in the rhythm of it, it might be a little bit easier. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of a natural thing probably. You either start off streaming and only streaming, or you start off creating videos and then eventually you're streaming as well. Like I kind of knew going into it, it was just a matter of time, really.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about if I do it again, I might actually try to like multi-stream to a couple different platforms at one time. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to try it, but um we shall see, I guess. I don't know.
I've seen people do that recently. There was someone that was they were actually streaming on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. They were actually streaming to Twitter.
Yeah, there's a few software applications that you can set up like multi-streams to. Restream
Mhm.
was the original one that I saw where it would allow you to set up your stream keys for multiple platforms and push them out. But actually, this right here, StreamYards, actually allows me to do it where I can stream it up to 5 different locations at the same time, I think.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, my only worry with that, and I guess I'm probably just gonna have to test it out and find out, is how like the bit rate's gonna work and how all that's gonna work between the different platforms because they're all a little bit different. I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a really good point because it's way different between Twitch and YouTube.
Right. Yeah. I'm anticipating an epic fail. So I'm lining myself up for that in ahead of time. So if it works in any way, shape, or form, it'll be a bonus.
That's why it's always interesting to get and be able to sit down and talk to another person that's done like the YouTube or the Twitch stuff and listen to some of those same struggles or just the same, you know, like, oh yeah, I'm planning for a full failure, like it's all gonna mess up and you know, audio video stuff always has problems. Like
I feel like it doesn't matter how much you prepare. At the end of the day, I'm using a device that was built and designed by a person. So
mm.
it's flawed. It just is. That's just the nature of the beast. So if I know that going in, I think it's eliminating those little expectations ahead of time seems to help me out a little bit more.
No, definitely. I think I
Yeah.
always struggle too, just because a part of my job is to set up this kind of stuff for the military. So a lot of times, uh, you know, we would get just trashed if we messed it up on that side of things. So I'm really hard on myself for it. But
Oh,
then I
there's
have
some
to
pressure.
realize
Yeah.
that, yeah, but I have to realize doing this, like, I'm reliant on YouTube's ingest server and I'm reliant on, my internet here at the house. Like there's so many other factors in there that I have to, not put quite as much pressure on myself for it.
Yeah. Recognizing probably that you don't have the same level of control as probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Having because I've been doing IT for like 20 years too, so I feel you. Like there's days
Okay.
where I
Yeah.
come
So you,
home
so
and
you
I'm like,
definitely know
it
the
should
struggle.
work this way. Why doesn't it work this way?
No, man, and that's the
uh,
worst. And I'm very OCD about it. Where if something's not working, I'm gonna sit and bang my head on it for the next 12 hours, and then
oh yeah,
finally go to sleep. Wake up 2 hours later, and it'll just suddenly work, and I'll lose it.
yeah. That's kind of how it goes, though. I find like 90% of the time with anything regarding any of this stuff, content creation, streaming, software,
Mhm.
hard, any of the stuff that involves any of the content creation stuff. Typically, if I've beat my head over any issue more than about a few hours, I just have to walk away.
Mhm.
Like I got to walk away for a pretty long time, and then I can come back, and usually within 45 minutes, it's fixed. You know,
Yeah.
but that yeah, yeah, I feel you though. Like because in your career, especially in your career, when you're used to having a certain level of integrity always there, and then you
Mhm.
kind of build on top of that. So you walk into this and you expect the same thing sometimes. I do that a lot for sure.
Yeah, and I wish I could blame it all on the exterior stuff, but I know I still make a lot of mistakes. But I was happy to see there's been a couple people recently on Twitter who talk about it, where they, they're like, "Oh man, I just recorded like the best 30-minute video ever," and then looked over and realized I didn't hit record. I was like, I'll admit, I'm really glad to hear that someone larger has had that same problem, because I've done it a few times where I'm like, "Man, this is flowing really well," and I look over and the light's not red. Like, oh man.
Have you done it where you had your mic muted the whole time?
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Yes, I've
that
definitely had the no audio ones.
and I think I was so mad because I was done editing it and
Uh-huh.
done recording it. It might have been like an ARC episode where I was like, "Damn, I nailed it. That's gonna be
Yes.
hilarious. People are gonna love it." And I don't even pay attention. I drop it into OBS or drop it into like Premiere, and I'm like, "Wait, why is it so quiet? What happened?"
Yep. Yep. There's no wave loading up. You're like, wait.
God, I actually tried. I gave up on it. So I think it might have been. I think it was an ARC episode where I forgot the whole audio. So what I was going to do was put it into OBS, change it to like black and white, and then I was going to like narrate the whole thing from a third person perspective. But I couldn't get it lined up the way I wanted to. But I thought it would have been a funny way to capitalize on my mistake. But
Yeah, I
oh
did one of the
God.
early videos where I redid the audio over it. So I commented as if I was playing it live. And you can,
Mhm.
if you watch it, you can definitely tell there's like a lag between like, all right, I'm gonna go get this tree, but I'm already chopping the tree. Like everything's off by like 3 seconds. Like, dang it.
Yeah, you got to make do with what you got, you know? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
living large.
Luckily that's
Living
those
large.
early videos. So hopefully they only
Yeah.
have like 80 views.
So, so what's your is it pretty strictly like gameplay? Are you doing any like how-tos or any of that stuff, or is it just kind of strictly gameplay right now? What I've seen is gameplay, that's why I'm asking.
I used to do a Yeah, I used to do a lot of mod spotlights, and I was actually getting back into doing that about what 2 3 months ago when the whole wildcard thing happened. I was getting back into doing mod spotlights, and I had like 9 of them recorded for the next like several weekends, like a Saturday Sunday mod spotlight.
Mhm.
And then the Arc stuff happened, and it kind of just took the wind out of my sails for that. And I actually didn't play Arc for like 2 weeks when I was deciding what to do, if I was going to step away from Arc, because I wasn't so upset because I'm a PvE player, so any of the PvP stuff I don't know about, and just in general, it's a game I love, so I don't get into most of the negative stuff. But there was such a backlash in the community that I was like, even in my comments, people were like, "Man, don't support Wildcard anymore. You should quit playing this game." Like, I was like, "Oh man, maybe I should step away." So I took a couple weeks to kind of figure it out, and I just never put those videos out. But I used to do like I said, that's how I found your channel a long time ago. Is I had done a couple mod spotlights, and I just didn't like how they were set up. Like I was doing too much editing. It was too choppy. And I
Mhm.
went and I think I found it was like your Primal Fear one or something like that. And then I watched a few after that of how you set yours up. And I was like, oh man, that's way better flow. So I definitely used a lot of that.
It's a lot easier with the smaller mods for sure. Like the Primal Fear
Mhm.
one, the bigger mods like that to do a mod review on is actually, yeah, it's kind of a pain because you don't want to make it too long to disinterest people, but then you also want to make sure you get all the important parts in. And yeah, that's rough. Plus, if it's a big mod that you've never used before, well, like now you got to really use it on top of it. You can't just like
Yeah.
willy-nilly make a video. It's not going to make any sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so the ARC stuff, what you're talking about, is that when they said that they were doing like they were gonna re-release it on Unreal 5, but they were gonna like charge people for it still or something like that?
Yeah, they had originally, was it Jeremy or whoever it was, or Jat, whichever, had pushed out the tweet that said, "Hey, we're gonna have a free upgrade to UE5 for Arc 1. And this is not just a cinematic, but a full rebuild for free." And
Oh
everyone's like,
wow.
"Oh my god, this is amazing." And then they announced that it was gonna be you had to buy that plus Arc Ascended as like one package. And everyone
Oh
kind of flipped
yeah.
out about that because they're like, "Wait, I'm gonna buy a game that's like a year in the future, or even longer now, and you want me to package those two together, but if I play the first game, I can't get a refund on the second game. Like, this is just a really bad system." And then there was a bunch of other blowback too, but that was the general cusp of it. And then this last couple weeks, there's a guy, Mr. Dolphin or something like that. There's a couple of the PvP guys for Arc
Mhm,
have had a bunch of big issues with I guess Snail Games or whoever it is, or no, I'm sorry, Wildcard Snail Games, whoever it is,
mhm.
uh doing a bunch of shady stuff on the PvP side of things. So, which I don't get a lot into, but from what I saw, they were like disabling accounts or kicking tribes off and then wiping the tribes base and weird stuff
Oh.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I never really got too big into PvP. It just didn't seem like a game that PvP'd well.
No, I never thought so. I mean, they seem to like it, and the videos for it seem pretty good, but I'm just not into PvP in general.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, that seemed like a weird business practice. Well, not weird, to be honest. I think a lot of businesses do this, but it almost
Mhm.
felt like, and I don't know if this was their intention, but it very much felt like their intention was, we're going to make you buy both of these because we're not sure if you're sold on the second one. So we're going to make you front the money now, and that way you're probably invested in it.
Yeah.
And that's what I didn't like. So I kind of backed off from it from that point. And that kind of bummed me out because I guess I was kind of struck by it because it felt like this was outside of the character of what I've seen previously. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I agree. I think there's a general disconnect between the parent company and the actual like the wild card studio, the people that we've interacted with or watched through Twitter or through live streams. The Cedric and Jeremy and Jat and those guys that we followed for all this time. That's definitely a big disconnect between them and the happenings from the parent company. At least it seems that way.
Sure. I wonder if that's a byproduct of them being a lot bigger than they were when they started. I'm not sure.
It feels that way. That's what. And then we were pretty concerned about just the announcements for the next for Arc 2 or whatever. They're talking about a third person. Was it Elden Ring style combat like NPCs? Like you're saying a lot of things that don't sound very Arc. I mean, maybe you can make it Arc, but it doesn't. I don't know.
It didn't. It very much sounded like it came across like these types of games are selling right now. So we're going to do
Exactly.
this so that we can try to grab another audience. And I feel like there's a balance there where you need to retain the audience that you have and then also experiment to gain a new audience. You can't just go full bore this way. And that's what it sounded like. Now,
Mhm.
in retrospect, maybe their intention, maybe they were insinuating that all the other stuff from Arc is going to be here already, so why would we talk about that? Of course it's Arc, it's going to be here. But they never said that, which made people really start to question everything. And
Oh yeah, definitely.
yeah, I have my doubts for sure. I hope I'm wrong. I definitely hope
Same.
I'm wrong, but I think I'm right.
No,
So,
same. And,
yeah.
and then the fact that all we've seen so far is, concept art, not any in-game assets, all concept art.
Yeah, concept
That's
art or
been,
cinematic stuff. Yeah.
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 Although if Vin Diesel says the word family in the next trailer, I'll come right back and I'll love Arc again. So
I think it's inevitable. I think he's kind of like probably pre-programmed to incorporate that at this point.
exactly. He's gonna say that or I am Groot. He has to.
I am Groot. Yeah. 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 I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that's right. They could totally pull that card as well. Yeah. I don't know. I get a little nervous when I see that, like when they take like a celebrity or a very well-known person and use them to kind of push a game. I get a little nervous about it.
Yeah.
Mainly because in my experience, when that's done, it sometimes gets it helps it get overhyped. And then if you keep hyping it after that, it's never going to live up to its expectations.
No, 100%. Do you ever play the game Crackdown?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
might be PlayStation, but it was an Xbox game where you play like a cop, run around, you get powers, you can
Yep.
super jump, sprint real fast. And the second or third one they threw was it I think it was Terry Crews. They had Terry Crews as like the kind of the main character, and in all the commercials, and it got pretty hyped up. And then the game came out, and it was like somehow a step behind the previous one. It was weird.
Yeah, I think Cyberpunk kind of fell into that too.
Oh yeah, the Keanu.
I
Yeah,
freaking love Keanu Reeves. I think he's an
yeah,
amazing actor and an awesome human being.
yeah.
So when
Great.
you see it, it hypes everything up. So you almost set this unachievable expectation when you do that, because not only were we seeing all these crazy awesome cinematic footage for months and months and months and months on this game, but then you're like this A-list actor is on the front page of this, like it's got to be great, but then it just when it released. And I almost feel like companies, they shouldn't, like, if that's what they wanted to do, they should have like kept Keanu completely out of any of the trailers. Like, not put his character anywhere in there, and then just release the game and let people find it for themselves. Like, just let it blow up then. I think it probably would have worked better.
There's another one coming out soon that's it's like a gangster type mafia Grand Theft Auto type game. It's
Mhm.
got a bunch of the actors like Michael Madsen and now I can't think of any of the actors' names, but there's like 10 really well known actors. You saw and be like, oh yeah, like and they're pushing them to the forefront so much that I haven't really seen much of the game stuff. I'm not even sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, I get kind of worried. I felt that way with what was it, Death Stranding with Norman Reedus being in there.
Oh my god, yeah,
Yeah, I was
the
like, that
walking
that'll be
simulator.
cool. Yeah, yeah. I didn't really. It was a weird artistic feel that I think appealed to maybe some people, but definitely not to me. I was like, whatever.
Yeah, I
Apparently, they're
heard they're
making a
making
second
a
one
sequel
now.
for it. Yeah,
Yeah, so I guess it must have done decently well. I guess it just depends on the audience for I guess that one. But again, I get a little worried when that happens. So when I saw Vin Diesel on there, I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know how this is gonna play out.
yeah.
But I guess we'll see.
So in general, I probably should have asked this before, over the last couple of weeks. What's your idea for this podcast going forward? Like, are you trying to stick pretty much to the video game and YouTube side of things? Or are you trying to branch and talk other stuff? What are you focusing on?
I think for really, it's just kind of conversations. I don't really set a too hard perimeter on it, but for the most
Mhm.
part, I do like talking about the things that we run into as content creators.
Okay.
And then maybe just kind of goals, aspirations of to what to come out of that.
Yeah.
And I specifically wanted to focus with, regardless of how this plays out or if it like blows up monumentally, which who knows, but I think I'd still want to focus on smaller and newer content creators, and not necessarily newer, but definitely smaller,
Yeah.
because I feel like there's
Mhm.
there's there's a level of challenge that those people are experiencing that bigger people aren't. Um,
No, definitely.
and that was something that I found myself really frustrated with in the beginning. You look around and you try to find out, how to get your videos out there, how to make it as a YouTuber and all this other stuff. And
Mhm.
the first, 20 things you read are from somebody who has millions of subs
Yeah.
millions of subs, and they all tell you the same thing over and over again. And I'm like, I feel like everybody's giving me a hollow answer. So I felt like that's where I really wanted to start talking to other people to talk about the challenges that they've actually had to experience, because I don't think it's all I don't think it's all thumbnails and titles. I think there's more to it there, right? It's,
Yeah.
trying to be in the mind, like you said, like being in the right mindset for streaming, or trying to time management, between real life and doing this. And yeah, which is probably something that I was going to talk about, was how well, when we kind of touched on it a little bit, was how well that you kind of manage your time going through all this between full-time, husband, dad, work,
Mhm.
and then this as well. Like, what's the game plan? How do you best manage that time effectively without
Uh,
driving yourself crazy?
well, to be honest with you, a lot of times I end up driving myself into a wall with going a little too hard on it, and then I'll, just go crazy for several weeks in a row, and then finally have like a day where I don't get any recording, anything good done. But yeah, typically just try to set up like a really good schedule and pre-recording. Even though we talked about it's probably not the best for day-to-day videos,
Mhm.
pre-recording is a huge step for me. And I've been really lucky the last couple of years. I've helped probably like 10, 15 people start their own YouTube channel, or a really small YouTube channel will join the Discord and ask questions. And, I at least try to help them out or give some good advice. And not that I know, I don't have any like, like you said, the secret tips to YouTube success. I don't know. My channel's still, a middling, floundering channel as well. So I don't really know
I mean, sort of, but I feel
what the
like
steps are.
yeah, I feel like you can learn something out of anybody though, regardless.
Yeah,
For
definitely.
sure.
But I always say when they first start, just, first thing is just record a couple videos and put them up. Like getting past that first hurdle of putting a couple videos up is probably one of the harder things, because I definitely goofed off with it for a few weeks before I ever uploaded that first video. And that's just, 10 days, 21 days that you delayed in putting a video up. You should have just put it up. So,
I think in the beginning, I hear you, because I think in the beginning I was so worried about, if we're rating videos on a 1 to a 10, I wanted to put out an 11, the first video that I put out.
mhm.
So I spent so much time playing with it or re-recording it or messing around with it, that I sort of lost the understanding that if I'm just starting this day one, I don't think anyone's expecting a cinematic masterpiece coming out of this.
Yeah,
And
there's old saying, this is the great is the enemy of good. Like if you focus so hard on making it perfect, you're never going to get great. And if you focus on getting like great, you'll never even get good, because you're trying so hard for that next step that you end up not putting out
Mhm.
something that could have been just fine.
That's a really good piece of advice. I like that. Great is the enemy of good. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
What do
and
you
yeah, the amount of times we did that with videos where I probably overthought it or decided to like re-record it, or like I said, I do intros over and over again. I'll get 5 minutes into an intro and say one thing that I didn't like and be like, "No, go back. That sounded awful. Go do it again." So I do it to myself a lot, but
You're always going to be your own worst critic, though, I feel like. Yeah, for sure.
definitely.
Do you find yourself recording with editing in mind ahead of time?
I do for some games. With Arc, I just kind of just play, but especially if I'm playing like a big mod. But with the other games, I definitely try to like set everything up beforehand. But yeah, I'm not sure. I would say usually I do, but lately I've just been kind of. I guess I've been lucky in playing games that lend itself to just doing one day at a time, 7 days to die, and the infected, and those games that make it real easy. But with I guess I'm backwards. Arc is the one you have to like pre-plan a lot and say like, okay, today we're gonna do this. I need to let me go gather a bunch of stuff so I can make kibble, and let me go gather a bunch of metal, and yeah, there's definitely a lot of pre-planning.
There's more grindy. It seems like there's more grindy going on with Arc a lot of times if you want to do things the right way, where things like, for like 7 days, that's almost part of the content is the grindy, because it means you're going to have to go in a house to go looting and get attacked by something, and it potentially could be hilarious. Yeah. No, I get you. I feel like there's probably benefits. I see benefits to both for sure. One could make the editing process a little bit easier, while the other one, I feel like when you wing it, that's probably where some of the more entertaining things probably happen, at least from my experience anyway.
And like we talked about them earlier, I think some of Miola's best videos are the ones where it's like a one-shot video, but it was like pure chaos the whole time, which he tends to have all the time. But those are some of his best ones where it's just like a one-shot, total off the cuff. Those are definitely the best ones.
I agree. So kind of going down that same vein, what do you think that you've kind of like struggled with the most during this process?
Probably the actual like the scheduling of the videos, or right now it's the biggest thing I'm struggling with right now is I need to limit myself, because I don't think that 2 videos a day, while it makes sense because I have kind of 2 different audiences, I don't think it makes sense because it's just too many videos to watch in one day. So I have like a couple really close friends who are subbed to the channel, and they're like, "Yeah, I try to watch a video here and there, man, but you just put out too many videos." And I was like, "Man, I do understand that." So yeah, biggest struggle right now is just trying to limit myself, or trying to focus on so many different games that I don't put out enough content for one game, or maybe sticking with content that's not doing well longer than I should. I don't know. That or just that focusing on trying not to focus on the monetary side of it.
That's hard. That's hard for sure. I think that is. I also definitely hear about sticking with things maybe longer than I probably should. I definitely felt myself doing that. I think it's because I had a series. I said, I started off saying, I'm going to do this series of this game doing this thing. And then I felt like stopping halfway through was like, it was just kind of a cop out. Like I didn't want to do it. Like I had to finish it out all the way through, regardless of who was really going to care.
Yeah. Well, and then you'll get that one comment like a year later, like, "Hey, where's the next video?" Like, "Oh man, I never finished that series." And I get one. There's a Primal Fear series I did 2 years ago that I got like 10 or 15 really negative comments. They're like, "Man, the season was going really well, and then you just stop it like episode 15." And I was like, "Hey, yeah, I actually got COVID. I was sick for a while, but sorry."
Yeah, you can't really focus on that. But yeah, I can't imagine 2 videos a day, like every day. Ooh, boy.
Yeah, I'm just so much into the flow of it now that I really time-wise, it's not that bad right now. And right now I'm kind of in a flow with that in 7 days. So that's 1 hour recording, 20 minutes of editing, and then the upload and thumbnails.
Is survival game sort of the genre right now? Is that the foreseeable thing? Is just survival?
It is. I put like a couple sports games on there, and they got so bad views. It's probably the only video that I ever deleted. I think I got like 5 views or something like that. And that's when I was averaging about 100 views per. And then about a year ago, channel was going really well, where I was averaging about 1,000 views on like every single video I put out. And then like if I put out something that was different from 7 days or Arc, it would get less than 100 views. It was bad. So I was always afraid if I branch out too much that it would just completely kill the views. And same with streaming. I would notice that when I would stream, if I leave that video listed, that it slows down the views on the next video for some reason. Like that doesn't get pushed to their sub box the same. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't really know how. I don't trust the notification things 90% of the time. I really don't. Like, I
Mhm.
don't really. God, I've never really understood the notification stuff. Like, I feel like sometimes people get them, and then sometimes people don't, and then sometimes, like you said, it might promote a stream over a video or a video over stream, and there doesn't seem to be. At least I haven't seen any sort of like rhyme or reason per se. I don't know.
Yeah, no, the worst one now is they switched on mobile. If you go to your subscriptions on mobile and you go to a channel you're subscribed to, so I went and checked your channel this morning,
Mhm.
and it instead of listing it by like when you go to the video section, instead of being by like the most recent one and then so on down the list, it has a for you tab now, and the for you tab might it was recommended videos from a couple of years ago, which isn't a bad thing. Maybe that's good for some people, but I was like, man, that's a horrible change. Like people are gonna because that's
I
what it
didn't
loaded
even.
up to.
I didn't even know they did that.
Yeah, no, it's bad. It was
Oh.
just one of the recent updates because I clicked on it. It was like a video from like 2 years ago. I was like, no, he's uploaded a lot of videos since then.
Mm,
Did he delete all his
yeah,
videos?
yeah,
And
that could totally screw a YouTuber.
yeah, and then I saw
Because
that it said for you, and I was like, oh, there's a for you section now. What the world?
yeah, somebody could do that and go, "Oh, you haven't uploaded in 2 years? I'm not watching this guy anymore. Unsub, walk away." You know, like,
Mhm.
oh god, I wonder. I don't. That's not a smart move. But right now, I feel like all they're doing is pushing shorts. Is that anything that you've messed around with at all?
Oh man, I did a few shorts, and I got one that got like one that had like 1,000 views, and one that had like I think like 1,600 views or something like that. So that made like 1 cent, I think. Like it's
Oh yeah,
really bad.
you're not making any, yeah, unless it does like something like viral, like millions upon millions. You're not making any money
Yeah,
off
yeah.
this.
A friend of mine, he's got a pretty small channel. I think he's like at 1.5, right around there or so. But he's focused really hard on shorts, and one of his shorts has like 100,000 views. And I was like, oh, how did it do? And he's like, it was like a couple dollars. Like I was like, for that many views.
Yeah, they
But
don't.
but I guess
I
it's
think
watch time too.
it's kind of like that, but I think the from a content creator standpoint, I believe the idea from a content creator standpoint is just to create a way to pull people into your channel. But if you're
Mhm.
somebody who's just scrolling through short feeds and you watch something that's funny, you might like it, but you're not going to stop what you're doing and go to this person's page and start looking at all this other stuff. Like, at least the average person probably isn't doing that. The average person's going, aha, that was funny. Next one. Like, they're not
Yeah.
really digging into a channel that way. I don't think that thought process that was thought like really, really well through. But yeah, I think if you're trying, clearly it's a way to compete with TikTok, and I feel like
Mhm.
if you're ever going to do that, you probably should be rewarding those shorts a little bit better, um, because that in return is going to motivate the person creating them, right? Like if that
Mhm.
guy that got 100,000 views saw like $50 out of it, he might have been like, "Oh crap! All right, I need to really start hammering these
Yeah.
out," you know?
Yeah. That's how it was.
Yeah.
Like, and I went and saw. I was looking for what your most popular videos were to see. Like you had a couple of them hit like huge, like hundreds, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 views. It was pretty good. That's
Some of
pretty
the
huge.
some of the tutorial arc stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that I
I
was
had.
really I was playing with the SEO. And at
Mhm.
the end of the day, that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
A lot of those videos were just like how to do something, and you'd literally go into
Mhm.
YouTube search bar and go arc how to, and then see what drops down and go, okay, let me look at this topic, and then we see, and then it lists all the videos, and I go, okay, what's the most recent somebody's done one of these, and it was like 2 years ago. I was like, okay, I'm making one of those, and that's when I would start going through it. Which at first I kind of felt like I was just biting off of other people that had made those videos. But then when I started really paying attention to when the last recent thing was
Mhm.
regarding that topic, I started to understand, wait, this game has changed substantially in 2 years. A
Yeah.
lot of this information's outdated. Let me go back and redo it. And yeah, a lot of those are probably the ones that have the most views on them, but they're all like tutorial-esque, which I think is predominantly what plays out really well on
Mhm.
here.
Yeah. No. I definitely watched quite a few of those back in the day. I like doing the tutorials a lot, or doing like the mod spotlights, but I feel like those are actually more time consuming than a regular video too. So it takes a lot of setup. So I can't imagine the time you were putting in for those.
Yeah, it really depends. It depends on what I'm trying to accomplish for sure.
Mhm.
But for me, I think this is probably where we're going to differ, right? Because you have like an instructor sort of background, so it probably helps you. You're probably really good at it. It kind of comes naturally to you, I would imagine, to a degree. I didn't necessarily enjoy doing that. I just
Mm,
thought because I was making content around Arc and people were asking me questions in streams or here and there,
mhm.
okay, well, I should make this video. And that's the only reason that I was doing it. I didn't really find enjoyment out of the tutorial style things. I
Yeah.
did have fun with the mod reviews though.
Okay.
I had fun with that because it was kind of like opening this giant toy box and just picking one and running with it. You know, like
Okay. And you
yeah.
didn't have to sit there and say like, "This is how you do it." You just got to say like, "Hey, look at this cool new shiny thing."
Sometimes, yeah, but I wanted to do both, right? Like I wanted to experience it and see how fun it was, but then also figure out how some of it worked and at least get the
Okay.
basics. Like I didn't want to just explain every little thing about every little mod about how everything worked. Even like the building mods, I did a lot. Like for instance, I did a lot of ecos mods, a lot of mod reviews for all the different building sets that were
Yeah.
done. And I wouldn't necessarily just build a building. I would just make sure all the pieces were out there and visible, and then just kind of breeze over them and talk about them.
Yeah.
So a lot of the mod reviews, I think the only ones that took me a considerable amount of time is when we started doing like total overhaul mods, like Primal Fear, like
Yeah.
something like that, because you're trying to explain it to a person that's never used it before. There's a lot going on, and then I myself couldn't even wrap my head around a lot of it. I had actually a buddy of mine, Raptor, helping me out to try to wrap my
Yeah.
head around it because he played the heck out of it and understood it up and down for the most part.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it actually took me less time to do the mod reviews and like the how-to sort of stuff. It definitely took me more time to do the playthroughs, but I enjoyed them more.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I struggle with those just because I tend to speak really fast. Like I have to consistently and constantly tell myself to slow down while I'm talking, or I'll mumble a little bit or kind of slur my words because I'm speaking so fast. So when I'm doing a regular video, it's not too big of a deal because if everything's going crazy and I'm speaking really fast, not a big deal. But in a tutorial or a mod spotlight, having to slow down like that. Yeah, a couple of my videos that did really well were like the Arc Eternal mod spotlights. That one did crazy well, which it was just like a side video I did. I didn't think it would do that good. I wish I would put way more time into it because I didn't think it would become, as many views as it was. And then I did like a part 1, 2, and 3. And then I had
Mhm.
intended to do a part 4, but I never went back to it.
You did a
So
few map tours as well that looked like they did pretty good too, right?
that was one of the ones that took off like in the early, like the Arc Twitter team, whatever, uh, tweeted out my map. So it got a lot of views. But really though, even with that many views, because it's a map, just like literally playing music while I'm flying over the map. It was nothing at all. Like I talked for like the first minute, then shut
Mhm.
up, fly around, play a little bit of music in the background. And it did great total views, but in terms of like watch duration, like now like 30-second, 2 minute at most, like watch duration was bad. So it didn't really help in terms of like monetization wise, but it was good to drive a bunch of subs to the channel. But I don't know that those subs were people that were coming back to watch other content. I don't know.
Yeah, that's always hard. That's always a guessing game for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the things that steered me away from the mod reviews and the tutorials. And this is probably my stubbornness to a degree, but that's where part of my frustration I think really came from. Is I thought like I was building this big conglomerate of people that were enjoying the videos. So when I started doing playthroughs, I figured those people would naturally be interested in that. And the truth
Yeah.
is that a lot of them were not.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them were not interested in that crap at all. Like if you look at any of the mod reviews that I've done, any of the tutorials that I've done, and compared them to any of the gameplay that I've done,
Yeah.
typically 90% of the time the gameplays are not as high as all the other ones are.
Oh, it's
And
crazy. Yeah.
that was super frustrating for me, honestly. That it was a buzzkill for sure. Like it definitely hurt to it made it a little bit, not that I had a huge problem being motivated, but it definitely
Hmm.
took a shot to the motivation here or there where I was just like, do I really want to invest as much time into this thing?
Yeah. Well, and it goes back to what you talked about earlier, like the SEO stuff, like the algorithm. You got how to in the title. A lot of times the mod spotlights reviews don't get as much views like the first couple of days, but they continue to get views even like a year later.
It's
So
true.
they last a lot longer. You get what do you call it, residual views for like a year later. You'd be like,
Mhm.
oh man, this one video all of a sudden blew up.
Yeah. No, yeah, I've definitely seen that. Yeah, even today, like where I look, where I get on like a monthly basis, YouTube will on the analytics side will tell you, you know,
Mhm.
what your views originated from some videos, and a lot of them are 2, 3 year old videos. I'm like, holy
Yeah,
crap! All right, they're still pulling their weight, I guess.
there you go.
I mean, these podcasts seem to be actually picking up pretty well, but
Yeah, I
ultimately,
saw that
you
on
know,
the first 2, they looked really good.
yeah, yeah, and it doesn't it's weird because I think it's because they're longer. Like the first like I don't really pay attention to the 24-hour thing anymore because I feel like the first I think because 'cause they're longer maybe and it's typically on a Monday is when I set them out. Like people are waiting
Mhm.
a little while and then listening to it or something. But yeah, they're doing pretty good, I think, for the most part.
Nice.
Having some
Yeah,
fun with
yeah,
it.
they definitely came off really well. I watched the full first one and then, listened to the 3rd one a little bit today, and then I'll go back and watch the second one when I get a chance. Uh, no, I think they're really good. Like, you're obviously even early on, you're pretty good at steering a conversation, you know, when there's those, like, natural lulls and stuff like that. Because I think that's probably the hardest thing to do is to steer a conversation. Because when you can notice that when you're asking a question, you have a very definitive thing in mind, but my mind goes off in a different direction because you're asking, "What's a challenge?" I'm like, "Man, everything's challenging," and then I go off in another direction. Like, it's like herding kittens sometimes, but no, you got a good flow with it, man. You do a good job.
Yeah, I just kind of let it go though. Really, like there are certain maybe certain questions that that I have in mind that I want to ask, but ultimately I just kind of let the conversation go where it naturally goes. I feel like that's much more organic. Honestly, it just feels
I
like
can
it
see that.
anyway. And
Yeah,
it also
definitely.
depends on who I was talking to, right? Like I'm pretty sure the first one that I did with Butch, that probably could have lasted like 20 hours, just
Yeah.
because the man, I love him, but he's got a gift and it's gabbing a little bit. Like I love him, he's an awesome dude, but yeah, that could have went for a really long time, you know. Um, but yeah, that was fun, and yeah, it's just it's cool being able to talk to some of these people too, and just seeing the interesting the different sides to it, you know,
Mhm.
like the last one I did with Bearded Sensei was talking about like more of the Twitch and the moderating side of things too, which has been kind of nice, you know,
Yeah.
and then being able to talk to somebody like you, I mean, I feel like we're often relatively in the same boat in a lot of cases, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
having a family, being a husband, having a full-time job, and then balancing this thing at the same time. And um, I definitely feel like I can relate to a bit of the walls that you've kind of ran into during the way too. So it seems
Yeah.
like each conversation has a bit to offer so far. And man, talking to Buddy, like I was like, man, I can't complain about anything anymore. Like that man, whoo, that was a
Yeah.
message of positivity talking to that dude. That was awesome.
Yeah. No, it was definitely it's been good, man. I think this is a good branch out. It gives you just a completely different perspective. Oh, plus I didn't mention, man. I like the new logo. The logo looks good.
Yeah,
The
I'm
little
having a little
microphone.
fun with it. I haven't decided if I'm gonna go like 100% and change the whole thing, but like part of me said start another channel, but then I was like, well, I don't want to manage 2 channels, so I'm not going to. Like I didn't have any other reason
Yeah,
other
don't
than I
yeah,
just
don't
don't want to.
yeah, don't start a new one because even if you're getting just minimal views on it as you slowly build it up, like you
Yeah,
still at least have like a subscriber base there to where it's gonna at least push you out to hopefully more people, right?
yeah, we'll see. And then I'm still thinking about, like I said, I'm sure I'm gonna go back to streaming here soon too.
Mhm.
Um, just
Well,
because
it'll pull you back
I
in.
do
It's
miss
it's
that.
it's it's like the mafia. It's gonna pull you back in. You
Probably.
thought you were out.
Probably. Yeah, I'm not out and I never really wanted to be like out. I just realized that for me, I have to take a big step back. And
Mhm.
that was more for like my own sanity, really. My own
Yeah.
sanity is pretty much what I needed to do. And you know, and the funny thing is like and this has been consistent with everybody that I've talked to for the most part, is like I thought I was putting mad time into this stuff. And then I'm talking to guys like you and just about everybody else that I've talked to and realized that in comparison, you guys have been like out houring me this whole time. And I'm like, "Ooh, I don't know if I don't know if I have the fortitude to maintain that sort of schedule. Like that's I can't
Well, it
imagine. I
could be
really
too that
can't.
maybe you just found a better flow or you have a better workflow for it, and you're able to do some of these things in a quicker time. Because a lot of times it's I'm sitting in here for 30 minutes to an hour before I get started on something. Like those are the days where I struggle is when I'm like, man, I got to get this recorded. Like, was it 2 nights ago? My video was out like 2 hours late because because I do one at 11 a.m. and one at 8 p.m. And then the
Mhm.
8 p.m. one I usually record like as soon as I get home from work, sit down, record, edit, then throw it up, go eat dinner with the family, and then don't do anything again until the next morning. But it's been running a little bit late lately, so which I probably should just say, hey, don't put one out today and save it for tomorrow, and you won't have to edit or do anything crazy tomorrow. But
yeah, my schedule was very. It was kind of it's definitely I think at the busiest it was I would come home from work to record because I worked an earlier shift, so I would come home and have a little bit of time to record something, to leave to pick my kids up from daycare or from school, and come home, and then record a little bit more at night, and then the next day when I came home, I would edit what I recorded the day before. And that's kind of, and then that would get uploaded later on, was typically the grind that I was kind of looking at, the cycle. But I don't think I think it probably ends up to being about the same. Like, I feel like someone like you might be putting out videos probably quicker, as far as I'm trying to like word this the way that I want to. Like, I feel like if you're looking at total length of how long the videos are taking to get done and put out, we probably spend fairly close to the same amount of time. I found myself sitting in the editing side of things for a lot longer, I feel like.
Were you cutting a lot of stuff out, or were you just
sort of? Yeah, but then there was times where I would hear, I'd take like a 3-hour recording, and then I'd cut it down the quiet stuff out of it, and then there's like probably you cut it down to about an hour, and then you really got to listen through the whole way to make sure what I'm saying is making sense, and then it's congruent. And then I think for me, I was trying to tell a story, and kind of like sort of tell a story and a journey more than describe exactly what I was doing sometimes. So I wanted to make sure the audio sounded right and that it was immersive. Like, I would always mess with the audio. That's when I really started messing with like audio filters. Like when the character walked into a cave, there was echo. When I was underwater, it was muffled. And then a lot of those weird transitions and filters. And every time you add something to it, it makes that editing process longer and longer and longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. So what I started doing was not uploading as often to kind of counterbalance that. But at the end of the day, I was spending just as much time. So I think that's where my burnout probably came from, is that I thought I was saving time by doing that, but by constantly changing things up in the videos, I was actually adding time.
Did you ever like really look at the analytics between a video that you edited really hard and worked on like crazy versus a video that you just did minimal things to and put it out?
Yeah, they were about the same.
That's where I'm running into. That's a great thing to talk about in terms of problem. Is right now, if I have a video that I'll sit and I'll edit and I'll do a little cinematic intro, like I had a 7 Days to Die where I had like a cool little intro with some music playing, and that would play at the beginning of each episode, and then I'd have something similar at the end, and I'd do some cool transitions in the middle, or I'd do like, if I'd go into like a zombie fight, I'd cut out everything in between, and just the impact of each hit, and like go real quick through, or just the opening of each drawer like inside of a building. So it's like really quick transitions and things. And I was like, man, this is a really good video. It flows well. The editing was great. Transitions are great. And it gets the exact same views as the one that I just threw up with like an intro and an outro.
And that's such, and I felt like, I don't know if you did it, maybe if you did or not, but I felt like I was doing it sheerly because I've been doing this for this amount of time. I need to be stepping it up. Yes, I never 100%. Actually, like, I found it really difficult to sit back and compare the two and say, okay, well, the views are the same, so I should just go back to what I was doing before, when I was like, no, I really should be stepping my game up, right? And I don't know. I think sometimes I kind of set myself up for failure at that time. But, well, at least set myself up for an expectation that just wasn't going to happen,
Yeah. Now, when you were going real busy into it, did you find yourself watching a lot of other creators during that time?
Oh, no. When I was super busy, I didn't watch very many other creators at all. Yeah, I think
that's where I'm at when I'm really busy.
Yeah. I can probably rattle off 2 or 3 YouTubers that I would watch on an avid basis all the time, and that was probably at the time when I was at my busiest. I would watch Miola's videos. Mainly because I don't know, I was still kind of enamored with the fact that guy did that shout out for me. I was just kind of like, all right, I'm watching everything this guy does now because he's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
It was I was interested in the content, but then I was also just it was a genuine, like, I like this guy, I want to support him. And him,
Yeah.
Neebs Gaming for sure. I still watch everything that they put out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
and most of I'm like drawing a blank here. Oh my god, why can I not pull his name up right now? 7 Days to Die. Glock. Sorry.
Glock.
Boy.
Yeah, Glock.
It
I was
took me
gonna
a
say
second. Yeah.
that's actually one of the first ones I was thinking of, because I was like the list, you know, talking about Neves, Glock, like those all those guys together.
Yeah. Well, the first time I ever heard about Glock was when he was on Neebs doing that 7 Days to Die. He was on an episode of 7 Days to Die with him. I'm like, this guy's
Oh,
funny as
really?
shit. Who is he? Let me find this guy. And then I just started
Oh man, I've been following that
watching
guy for
everything
forever.
that he does. Yeah.
Yeah, I started watching him when he had like him and Cap and a couple of the Cage and a couple of those guys. They only had like, they were in like the 10 to 20, 30,000 range, and then they all hit their stride and blew up pretty big.
Yeah, and then like collaborating with some of the bigger ones, and I think they've done awesome work for themselves now. Yeah.
Well, and that's an example of somebody that, like, Glock's been like 90% just 7 Days to Die. So he's an example of sticking with one game is good. So I don't know.
I think the vast majority of ones, as much as I don't want to admit it, the vast majority of people that are in the gaming side, I would say, are probably fit into that category. They're 90% that game.
Yeah.
Like when I think of especially any kind of like quote unquote solo act, right? Unless they're like a full-time streamer. If they're just streaming and nothing else, then it's probably mixed up. But for the most part, any bigger channel that I see, they focus on one thing. And that's just that's their staple. But and I don't know why I'm worried about it, because I shouldn't be, because I mean I can look at all these other people and see that it works. But my worry has always been kind of like what you touched on in the beginning, was that you start doing that with one game. Well, what happens if that game vanishes tomorrow? Then what do you do? You know? I'm like, well, I feel like the idea is, the idea, I guess, is build the community, and the community will follow you wherever you go if that happens. But well, I mean, Glock's definitely one of those people. Syntac, Miola, a lot of those folks stick to one specific game, and that's really what they do.
One of the up and coming ones, if you're liking like kind of like that cinematic thing, if you've ever heard of GNS, Gun Nerds and Steel, he's a great one for 7 Days to Die.
GNS.
He does a little bit of other things too, but yeah, Guns, Nerds, and Steel. I think he just hit 100,000 subs, and we were part of a little 7 Days to Die group about a year ago, and he had like maybe 15, 20,000 at the time. So he blew up. It was a group of a bunch of us that had anywhere from like 1 to like 10 or 15,000 subs, and most of us stayed around that same range. But man, his editing, he does like full cinematic. He's got a second computer with another camera off at an angle, and he's very, very Neves Gaming style in terms of like the way he edits and stuff.
Yeah, and I think they're probably an exception to the rule. Like they can go around and do all these other different games, because that's not really what they're advertising. They're advertising the camaraderie and the comedy and the cinematic journey with all of them. So I think they're probably an exception to that rule. But yeah, the vast majority of people that I see that are doing decent are usually focused on one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I watched hours of their, was it Scrap Mechanic?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That Scrap Mechanic, some of the Scrap Mechanic videos were absolutely hilarious. I haven't really seen anything that I haven't liked from those guys. I think my favorite one by far is the Subnautica playthrough. The first one is probably
where he's talking to the guys on the radio. Yeah,
they're like the help desk people. And again, having been in the IT place for like 20 years, like I feel that in my heart. Like those conversations.
Did you ever play the game?
Yeah.
In the game, they actually they put their audio in the game. It was awesome.
Yeah, they wrote him in on the crash ship. Like he talks about Abster's trying to talk to you, and I think a couple of the others in the background trying to order lunch, and he's like arguing back and forth with him or something. Oh yeah, for sure. That happened with them on a lot of things. Like they got written into Conan for the same reason. Stuff with
that's right, when you go knock on that one door.
Yeah, and not only that, but there's actually like on the other end of the map, there's actually gravestones with how they died marked on them too.
Oh no!
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then I think that's happened with Battlefield. I think a couple times too.
I saw they put the guy Nekidus. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but the guy that did Valguero and Fjordor and now Svartalheim or whatever it is. It looks like there was a tweet today that he pushed out that showed like a thick 44 monument like inside one of his maps, inside the newest map.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Man, I did. Oof, that was and this is gonna sound a little heartless, maybe, but I've never met that man, right? Like I've heard his voice, I know what he looks like, but I
Yeah.
genuinely felt disconnected when I heard he passed away. I was like, son of a like I was genuinely upset. And
Yeah.
not to say that I'm like heartless or anything, but typically that affects me when I'm connected with that person on some level. But it just, I remember thinking about that later on. I was like, man, like, ugh, gosh, I can't imagine. It's yeah.
Yeah, that's what I just didn't want me and my son watched them quite a bit, so I was like, yeah, I just don't want him to find out. But then he came to me like a day later. He's like, "Did you hear about Thick?" I was like, "Oh dang." I was like,
Yeah.
"All right, let's talk about it, buddy." Yeah, no, that's freaking awful. I think they've done a good job of paying a lot of respect to it, and some of the things they've done since then.
For sure. I think the whole community has really. I think everybody
Mhm.
everywhere kind of has been, which is just kind of nuts. And it's one of the things that I think kind of appeals to me with content creation is being able to just connect with people on that level and potentially never even seeing them face to face. I think is incredibly interesting. I think the internet can
Yeah,
sometimes be used as a pretty negative place, but then when you see stuff like that, you're like, "Yep, there's still hope for humanity." Like we're still doing okay.
definitely. No, yeah, I have friends in Discord who I've never met in real life, but I consider them some of the truest friends I've ever had. So, and then the ones that I really like, I force them to moderate for me.
No, I hear you. Yeah, yeah, I've met some really good friends on here. You know, I definitely have. I've met some people that I don't really get along with either. But for the yeah, I've met a lot of really good people on here. Which is kind of yeah, I think that's probably one of the reasons why I still enjoy it as much, and I can't seem to walk away from it is those connections with some of those people for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of I think I don't know, it is very much like the mafia, yeah, like, once you're in, you're in, like, there's really no way you can say you're gonna get out, but you're not really out. Yeah. So,
Oh
I
yeah,
so
they
one of
they'll get me playing games that I don't even like or want to play.
so one of probably the bigger reoccurring question that is probably gonna be asked just anybody that I have these chit chats with, and this is, like, a completely
Mhm.
hypothetical, uh, question. Like, if you could just, like, Thanos snap your way into the YouTube channel or wherever else, like if it's on Twitch or whatever, and you could be at exactly where you wanted to be,
Mhm.
what would that sort of look like?
Oh, like so, like pie in the sky. This is what I wish it was.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I would definitely like. I don't know that I'd want to do it as like this is my living that I have to. But it would be nice to get to that point where you could, where you had that choice. I know a couple guys that once they got to like that 100,000 mark, they were able to do that. It used to be years ago, if you hit 30,000, you were making enough. But with all the changes for the monetization, it's just not a thing anymore. But yeah, pie in the sky. Probably, I'd want to be in that range. The 100 to 200,000, like not so big that it would like stress me out all the time, but big enough to where just money wise, it would allow me to do some other things, or just focus way less on the regular job, or maybe go get a part time job and then go truly full time in this. Because even though I do full time content in terms of 2 videos a day, in terms of how much time I'm putting into the videos, it's not as much as I should. Like I should be like you said, I should step that game up. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, pie in the sky, probably 100,000, like somewhere around
Yeah.
there.
And that's kind of that's an interesting I kind of like that though because it almost feels like you're describing like that goal would be to be at that crossroads to be able to make that decision. Not
Mhm.
necessarily to make it, but to be in the position where you could make that decision if you wanted to.
Yeah. Which I think mistakenly, I thought that would be where I'm getting to now. Like I was like, oh man, if I can get to 20,000 subs, I'll be making an like, no, you don't. like and I'm pretty open about it. Like I make basically $5 a video, like give or take. So that tells you, five times, 30. So that's pretty close. Then times two. That's about right on a bad month. 400 on a good month, twice that, and it fluctuates big. So I couldn't imagine being reliant on it.
Yeah, I almost feel like that would be like if you were solely doing it full time, you got to have some other like backup plans. You must because I mean you're
Mhm.
at the mercy of this algorithm every day. Like that, I feel like you're just trading one level of stress for another level of stress,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I don't know if that it's particularly better. I would argue it's probably worse in a couple different ways. You know,
Yeah.
like there's just so many things that I don't that being in a career being working for a company, there are certain things that I don't have to worry about, right? Like I have a retirement fund, I have
Mhm.
health insurance, I have life insurance, I have like dental and vision plans and all that crazy stuff. If I
Yeah.
walk away from all that stuff and I was doing YouTube full time, all that stuff's coming out of my pocket. Like it's not guaranteed. I got to figure all that out too, plus do this. And
Yeah.
then even then, it's a gamble of how long is a channel going to be alive around for? You never know. Is it going to stand the test of time? Is it going to fall down? Yes, yeah, man. Oof. There's a lot of variables there that that would freak me out for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. No, it's definitely something I think about it quite a bit because I don't ever I think we don't ever want to be like, oh yeah, I want to be famous or I want to be like a giant YouTuber. Like I think we're hesitant to say something like that because that's not why I'm doing it. I genuinely enjoy making content and I enjoy the community that I built and the community that I've been able to interact with.
Mhm.
Those are the things I enjoy. But and actually, from the question earlier, you said what was one of the early reasons why I started it. I also kind of thought like, oh, hey, if I can make a couple dollars on videos, that'll help me pay for a game or two here and there. So that was kind of an early thing, I guess. I was like, oh, I'll make a couple dollars on videos and buy a new game. Mm.
Yeah, it's kind of like just to recycle it. Yeah, basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
or create a cycle, I guess. Yeah, for sure. I understand that part too. Yeah. No, I don't think I would ever. If I had to answer that question for myself, I don't think that I would ever want to be like the biggest YouTuber on the face. I just don't. Because I feel like
Mhm.
there's a level of just absolute crap that those individuals probably have to deal with, but they can never get in front of a camera and tell you.
Mhm. I imagine.
And I just don't want it. I just don't. I think yeah, I don't know. I like what you described though. Just being in the place where you had that option and you could
Yeah.
pick one way or the other. That's an interesting it's an interesting place to get to. And I agree. Ad revenue on this platform is not great. It's not. You really have to kind of outsource it elsewhere. Places like Patreon, or
Yeah.
memberships and things like that. You can't really rely on that ad revenue the way you used to be able to. And you're right. Yeah, years ago, yeah, you get to like 30,000, 40,000 subs, and you were living high on the hog, and that's not
Yeah.
happening now. That's not happening at all. Yeah, I think my CPM is usually about it. I mean, it's changing slightly a little bit because a lot
Mhm.
of the format that I'm doing is changing, but it would have to,
Mhm.
it would have to change for a consistent amount of time for it to matter. But gaming on YouTube pays like the lowest CPM, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Something I
it's
definitely
bad.
didn't know when I started. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. And I didn't really start. I didn't understand that either. I just assumed I'm like, okay, I must be like average, right? Like
Mhm.
must be somewhere in the middle. And then when I realized I'm like at the bottom, I'm like, damn it. But I don't know why that is. I don't know if you have any idea. I can't. My knee jerk reaction is that it's because it's such a heavily saturated field. I guess I don't know.
I think that's true because when I first started doing 7 Days to Die, there was like 10 creators out there that you knew and that were solid, that were good. You had, Glock, Ja Woodle came up a little bit later, Cap,
Joe Woodle, yeah.
Cage, Spartan. There was a bunch of them that were, yeah, they were all really good about that same level, like, medium to large channel. And then now, if you go into that community now, like the Alpha 2021 streamer weekend Discord, it's hundreds and hundreds of people. So like that group that was very exclusive before has gotten, less and less. They let riffraff like me in there, so it's not as exclusive anymore. Like,
Oh man, yeah.
but no, but it's
Yeah,
but that's
hard.
definitely I think the way I've always thought about it is it's a giant pie. Like all of YouTube is one giant pie, and then you got to section it out to gaming. How much of gaming is YouTube? And it's probably 15% at most, probably way less than that. Like if you like really put out like you got gaming and you got
Yeah,
entertainment,
if you
like if you
really, yeah,
tied it out,
added everything, yeah,
mhm.
I agree with that. Yeah, probably between there. Yeah,
And then and then you pie yourself further down to just arc, and then now not only are you in that small 10 to 15%, now you're in less than 1% of that 15%.
Yeah.
And it just, so that's why I've tried to branch out from the one game, so I'm not stuck in that smaller percentage. But I don't know. The dream, honestly, now is I'm pushing on this second channel a little bit. If I start getting a few more subs, I'll actually advertise it some. But doing just more talking stuff where I'm talking about like comics, movies, entertainment stuff that interests me, something that I can sit down and talk about easily for like a 10-minute video, a 20-minute video, and it's like no editing involved other than if you're going to edit out like sneezes or coughs. But it's
Right.
very different, and for as low as our CPM is, we have to do way more editing than what I think most types of YouTube channels do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you can't get away with, now we have people doing vlogs, recording it on their phone and just throwing it on the internet, and it does great. That's never going to
Yeah.
fly in the gaming industry. It's just not.
Mhm.
The bar is so much higher than it was before.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, streaming games started with people like having camcorders showing on their TV while they were streaming.
Yeah.
Like that's what it was. And now it's like, what do you mean you don't have a webcam and a stream deck and you're using OBS and like and 14 monitors and all this?
Yeah.
It's almost mandatory and expected when you start getting down that rabbit hole. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know what caused that, but part of me wants to say maybe something like Twitch where people were making a lot more money streaming and it was easier. Like maybe that had something to do with it.
Mhm.
I don't know. But yeah, it seems like we definitely the effort versus reward balance isn't quite there sometimes.
Yeah. And then I try to look at channels that are, like around our size or larger and see what their growth is, like, like from around the time I start following them and see how like they do over the next several months, and trying to see, and definitely in other genres, like I follow a couple comic book guys, and their growth from 10 to 20,000 was quick. Like it was really quick because, they're talking about something that's more in the, the general zeitgeist where it's actually talked about in regular entertainment. They're talking about Captain Marvel or Captain America or whatever they're talking about, and that might get them some clicks that doesn't have to do with what they're talking about, but they get driven other places. I don't know. It's
I would say that
definitely something I think about.
Yeah, it's almost like when you're in that small piece of that pie, you kind of
Mhm.
shout into all the other realms. But depending on what you're doing, the shout is either louder or quieter. And when you're doing something like that, you can cater to so many different sections of that pie at one time.
Mhm.
At least potentially anyway. No, I totally hear you. I think it's the same thing. Which is yeah. I mean, I'd be curious to. Well, I don't think it's in curiosity. I think I know when I go back and look at like because you can see like the the demographic of like the videos that when you put out and who's watching it and who isn't.
Mhm.
The vast majority of the people watching these podcasts are not subscribers,
Yeah.
and they're not returning people either. I can even see that and tell that
Mhm.
it's newer people that have potentially even never even seen the channel before.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a game we got to play sometimes. So it'd be a
Well,
little
what's good
frustrating,
about
yeah.
that is some of the really large channels, like the million sub people, they talk about the same thing where they talk about the, they'll say, I know that less than, 30% of you are actually subscribed. For you other 60% out there, what are you waiting for? Subscribe. Like they're saying something like that. So
Mm.
they're doing the same thing at their size too.
Yeah, I think everybody does, and when I made that comment in that video about that, I
Mhm.
willfully knew that I was not the only one feeling that way or seeing that or that
Yeah.
that these other larger content creators weren't going through the same thing. As a matter of fact, I think Mila might have even commented on that video, and he's right. When you look at your
He
sub
did.
to
Yeah.
view rate, it's not too terribly different. And I think my counter to that was, yeah, but it still sucks regardless. Like,
Yeah.
I think I just it's this. I've been almost vehemently anti that call to action all the time because I see it
Mhm.
done so much that it's almost cringy to me, I
Yeah.
guess. Like to a degree.
No,
Yeah, I guess
I've
it's yeah.
I practiced for one full month where I didn't say it versus when I
Mhm.
did. And because I saw like a 20% increase when I did, now
Mm.
it's just stuck in my head. So at the beginning of every video, I do it. And I actually want to quit because the other day I got stuck in like a little circular thing at the end of a video and I
Mhm.
did the outro and I was like, oh crap, I got to do this one more thing. And I did the one more thing and then I did an outro. And then I did the one more thing and did an outro, and I didn't catch it in editing. So someone's like, "Hey, how many times are you gonna say like, comment, subscribe?" I was like, "Oh my god, did I get stuck?" I did.
Yeah,
Just
I
full
mean,
on circle.
I feel like in the opening, closing, that's okay. But if I'm watching, and I don't see it happen too terribly much, mainly because I'll like walk away from channels sometimes if I do it. But open,
Mhm,
close, I completely get it. I understand you're trying to
mhm.
make a brand for yourself. I get it. But I've definitely come across ones that, like, I swear to you, like every 8 minutes during like a
Mhm.
45-minute episode, like every like 7 minutes, it'd be like, don't forget to do this, don't forget to do this, don't
Yeah.
forget. I'm like, oh boy, that's why it's 45 minutes long. It would actually only be 40 minutes long.
Yeah. No,
But
absolutely.
yeah, and I'm not trying to bash those people. Teach their own at the end of the day. It's just for
Mhm.
me, it's something that I didn't want to keep doing.
Oh yeah,
Um,
we that was actually a good Twitter discussion with Glock 9 actually. He actually mentioned that. He's like, "Look, I don't say it in videos." He's like, "I've done it a couple times as like an experiment to see." And he's like, "And I did see an increase, but he's like, but I still just don't feel right with it." So I don't think he rarely, if ever, says something about it.
mm,
You know.
yeah, and that's I think that that kind of falls in line with, and this is where I get back to that. Like, if you were to Google like how to make it on YouTube, and
Mhm.
this was something I said in that video too. Like the first 20 videos you see are all saying the same thing, and that's something that they're all saying too. Is make
Yeah.
sure you do this call to action and all this other stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I think most people on that are watching YouTube at this point know that you want them to do this thing. So
Mhm.
I don't always know. Maybe it's just a friendly reminder, maybe that helps, but I don't know. I
I
just
did have a couple people, like just like one or two people that said like, "Hey, that reminder like does remind me to like slide down and hit the upper button real quick, like if I'm watching like on mobile or something like that." So because one or
yeah,
two people told me, it makes me definitely think that I need to say it. But
if it
I think
works, it
it's I
works.
think it's something that sometimes I'll not do it, and I'll throw that little animation in there with the the thumb up and the like or the notification bell, whatever. I've got that little animation that I can throw in.
Mm. And I also
Not
feel
quite as
like
cool as Miola, but
but I also feel like it flows better, right? So like if you're
Mhm,
starting the whole video off like that and ending the video off like that, this is the start and end, it flows. But if there's like something legitimately going on, even if it's not a video game like video, right? It could be anything. If you're trying to express something, express a certain idea, describe what you're doing, and you just stop, 2 sentences in to talk about this other thing, it feels like you've just put me on a commercial break a little bit
yeah.
where maybe using something like what you were talking about, where it's just an animation or something like that, doesn't disconnect me sometimes. And maybe that's where I have a problem with it, is because I feel almost disconnected when that happens, and then I have to try to reconnect again.
Yeah, I've
So
heard
it
some
could
people too.
very well
They
just be
takes
all
you
in
out of
my
that
head.
immersion. One where I noticed it recently is I'm trying to combine. A lot of people are doing supercuts of their videos now, so I've
Mm,
tried to combine like an entire season into one video.
mm,
And when I do that, I don't want the intro in there 30 times. So like I don't want it to be like, "Hi guys, TBF Gaming." That doesn't need to be at the 1 hour mark, 2 hour mark, 3 hour mark in a long video. That's just silly. So I'm
mm.
I'm definitely going to look at different ways to do it in the future, just so I'm not doing that same intro each time, or like more like intro on the run. Like, hey, we're joining in progress already. Here's what we're doing. I don't know. I've tried to figure out different ways to do it.
Yeah, I think with the supercut though, I think you can kind of get away with, you'd have to go through the beginning of each video
Mhm,
you're adding to that supercut, but you could definitely get away with, skipping past the majority of that and just kind of doing a
mhm.
nice a blend from one to the other.
Yep.
Basically, because in the title they know what's happening, right? They know that what you're doing is connecting all these things together. So I think the audience is almost a little bit more forgiving when that happens, because really they're looking for the really long form content more than anything else, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have better experience with longer stuff, or shorter videos as far as like
I
engagement and who's watching there?
I do, and I'm sorry. I feel like every time I'm like, oh yeah, what? Something interesting on Twitter. I've been trying to branch out to other social medias a lot lately, so I'm spending a little bit more time on Twitter, a little bit more
It's a
time on
smart idea.
Instagram, and try to push out there a little more. It's hard because I just don't have an interest in either of those. But
Same. But
but at
yeah.
least on Twitter, I've been able to have some good conversation with people. And Cap said something about he put out a like 55-minute video, and he's like, I don't, my videos are never that long. I was a little worried about it, but the watch time on that one was 10 minutes higher than any other video I ever put out. He's like, should I always do 55-minute videos? Like, and I do see a general uptick, but I think that's because you're more loyal people or people who are able to let it run. They're watching the full video, and it's just averaging out to a higher, you know. I think you're still getting the same amount of people that are watching a full video, because I don't think total watch minutes is different. I don't know.
Yeah. I know from like a viewer standpoint, I actually enjoy watching the supercuts more, mainly because when I'm watching somebody else's content, I'm typically doing something at the same time. I'm not just watching them.
Agree.
And I like being able to, especially if it's something long, I can throw in my earbuds and I'm down at my desk doing something, editing something, or maybe even playing a game like low key with the volume down a little bit, and I'm still watching it. Or I can get up and hell, I can go work out, or I can walk outside for a second and come back in. But I can still hear everything. I'm still kind of connected to it the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find myself, for me personally, I enjoy the longer form content more than anything else.
Yeah, I'm definitely drawn a little more to that.
Yeah, man. So no news on the. So we're not going to hear about the second channel yet, huh?
No, definitely not. Just because it's something I want to continue to get better on that side of it. Because that one actually does have face cam and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of it's a little weird.
I understand. So where did
I've got like 50 total views, so it's doing great.
Okay, got to start somewhere,
right?
I feel like that's like big when you first start, though. Like, I don't know about you, but when I first started and I had like 15, 20, 30 views on a video, I was like, what?
Oh, my first comment, I geeked out. Yeah.
You know, the comments are the ones that are rough to get. Even now. Yeah, when somebody like comments on videos, I'm like, what? I think it's because I don't know. I think in the beginning, I used to get like email notifications when people subscribe to the channel. And
oh yeah, same.
maybe there was like a weird satisfaction thing that happened when I got that, and then when that stopped, I would still get it for a lot of the comments that still happen. So maybe it's partially that, but it's hard to get interaction with comments on videos a lot of times.
It definitely is. On an ARC video, I average between 2 and 10 comments, and on like Infected, I average like between 25 and 50. So it's just it's a big stark difference. But I think it might be the viewing age. You know, the viewing age with ARC is a little bit younger. You know,
could it be also possibly? I don't know. Because I don't know what the comments are really kind of based on. Is it more so because it's a newer game?
It could be that too. And they're definitely giving me a lot of tips. Where I think with ARC, since it's kind of old hat for me, maybe I'm not getting as many tips because I allegedly know these things. I don't, but I forget more daily. So.
It's almost easier when you play a game for longer to forget all that stuff, especially with a game like ARC, because there's so many little things going on all the time. I probably played that game for like 4 years before I realized that you could put a torch on a saddle of a dinosaur and walk around with it. My mind was blown.
That's what I had someone recently. I had killed one of the saber-tooth salmon and used a sickle to get prime meat off of it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I had 10 comments like, I didn't know you could do that. I've been playing ARC since the beginning. Like,
oh god, yeah. There's so many like little things to. I think it's almost, like I said, it's almost easy to forget those things with that game. For sure. Yeah.
Well, then I don't know if you've ever faced it, but when I hit record, I swear some of the brain cells shut off when I hit record, and then I suddenly things that I would normally know to do, or like we use the awesome teleporter mod a lot, and it's got the dino trackers on there, so you can bring your dino back to you when you die. I don't ever put trackers on my poor dinos; they're just out in the wild. Like
every time I would stream when we were using that, like a bunch of us would stream, and I would lose an animal, and somebody would be like, "Didn't you put a tracker on it?" Or chat would blow up, "Didn't you put a tracker on it?" I'm like, "Of course I didn't put a tracker on it. Why would I do that?" Yeah, it's easy to forget those things, but I almost feel like that kind of adds to the funniness sometimes when you forget those things. Like when I was playing, I think the last map that I was playing was Scorched Earth, and I forgot that there were Perlovios on that map. I completely forgot. So the whole time I'd been like wandering around, not even paying attention. And then I just stumbled upon one. I'm like, oh, these do exist here. I forgot. Yeah, it's easy because there's so much going on.
No, I didn't even know they're on that map. It's been a while since I played it.
They're rare, but they're definitely on there. I found one with my face. And it was like it shocks you even more because I forgot about it, So
well, there's something endearing about that. If someone's making, like, you want to see people make, kind of the same mistakes as you do, or you don't want to see like a perfect gameplay. Like we don't go to Noobs Gaming because it's pure full on experts over there.
Yeah, I feel like it just depends on what you're looking for, right? Like I
Mhm.
feel like when if I'm looking for like Escape from Tarkov, like I want to see somebody play that game like a machine. But if I'm seeing somebody play Ark, I kind of want to see them trip over themselves here and there. It's kind of funny,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that way if I
That's-
watch if I ever watch like a sports game or a shooter game, I definitely think that, like, okay, these guys need to be like pros. That's that's part of the reason why I don't play Minecraft, because I feel like that community, if you don't know everything, you get trashed pretty hard. Like
Do
I
you
play
really?
Minecraft.
Yeah,
I play it, I just don't do it on YouTube.
I could never get into it. I don't know why, but I couldn't get into it. My daughter plays it too, and I don't know.
I felt the same way, but one of the deployments where I was away from the family for a full year, that's
Mhm.
how I was able to keep in contact with the kids. We had a Minecraft world that we'd load into, and we could talk
Oh,
on
that helps.
voice chat for free. And yeah, definitely. And then a bunch of the guys in the Discord now, they love Minecraft, so we have a Minecraft server that they wipe every month and roll out a new mod pack, and they pull me in every so often. I get pulled in quite a bit. Like, it's some of the mod stuff is really cool, just the progression of it. It's fun. But yeah, you
Cool.
wouldn't think so with Minecraft, because I was the same way for years. I was like, I don't want to play Minecraft. They're
Yeah, it
trying to get
probably
me with
depends
that
on the
with Diablo
situation.
now.
Yeah, I saw Diablo 4 coming out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take my time. Like, I don't know. Like, it's not a bad game. I think they're all been pretty awesome, but I think
Mhm.
over time I've been a little bit more disinterested with it. So
Yeah, that's
I
time.
think it's just other stuff that I want to play more, I guess.
Yeah, I played the last one a little bit, but there's not really any big games on the horizon right now. I've been trying to like watch for something good coming out.
Yeah, there's a few that I'm waiting for, and they're different genres. Like I said, Baldur's Gate 3 is supposed to come out, I think, in August. It's been early access for a long time, but it's actually supposed to fully release in August, I believe. Um, that one I'm looking forward to. Like I said, if you enjoyed the previous Baldur's Gates, you would probably. It's kind of the game. I played the early access, and it's almost a twist between Baldur's Gate and then like maybe the last Dragon Age game that came out, Inquisition or whatever.
Oh, okay, okay. There is a
Um,
new Dragon Age coming.
Saw that, yeah. Well, the last one kind of left an open ending, which I wasn't
Mhm.
surprised about. Yeah, so there was that one, but then there was another one that I was waiting for as well. It might have got pushed back. Might have been Nightingale, maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah. Nightingale got delayed. That
Yeah, it
one
got
looks really
delayed
cool.
again.
I'm just not sure what to think of that one. If it's going to be a server game or if it's a, I'm
Yeah,
not
I
really
don't
sure.
know. It's still kind of up in the air, I think. Yeah,
It
yeah,
looked like it wasn't server though, from what they talked about, but I don't know.
yeah. It's hard to tell these days, but yeah, you're right. There's not a whole lot of. I'm trying to think off the top of my head of like stuff off the horizon where I've been like, yeah, I really want to play this. I've actually been looking
Mhm.
for a good because Raptor and I and a few other people used to play like the old Red Alert Command and Conquer series together all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We were looking for like a really solid like RTS to play, and I feel like when I look through all those, that genre is not what it used to be like at all.
Yeah.
Like, there's just not very popular, I guess. I don't know.
It doesn't seem like
Eh,
it now.
No, it's not. It's kind of a bummer because I was like looking to scratch that itch and I didn't see anything. But I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen anything with it in a long time.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of like indie developer games that might be coming out in the future that might be somewhat okay-ish, but I don't know.
I think they had a Starship Trooper one that was similar.
I think I did look at that one. Yeah, yeah. I wasn't 100%
Yeah,
sure
not
about that one.
not the first person shooter one, but the
Yeah, they did.
the
Yeah, an
strategy one.
RTS. Yeah, it was an RTS where you.
Yeah,
Yeah, you were playing again. Yeah, yeah. I
I
think I
thought
saw
so. I
that
couldn't
too.
remember for
There was
sure.
a couple. Yeah, there's a couple I was playing.
The sh-
That's actually
hey,
how I
the
found that War Tales game.
okay, the shooter one actually did look kind of cool though. Running around shooting the bugs.
Yeah, another guy in my Discord was talking to me about it. He was checking it out. He said it looked pretty cool. I was like, I don't know. We'll see. I get too many games. I'm trying to like, and now I have a little bit more free time than I usually do. So I'm just I'm trying to narrow it down so that I don't have like 17 games installed at one time and none of them ever get completed. But
No, we're so bad at that in our Discord. The moderator chat is called Team ADHD because we just constantly sidetracked.
it gets worse and worse for me as the years go by. I think honestly, I used to be like the type of person like if it was 10 years ago, if I was playing a game, I was glued to that game, no other game,
Dial
only
down, yeah.
that game until it was all the way done, like completionist done. And man, it's not that way anymore.
No, I go the other way where I go hardcore into one to the point where I get tired of it and then stop. And there's so many games that like I've never beat Skyrim, never beat. It took me like 10 years to beat Grand Theft Auto. Like it was any of those games take me forever because I'll play it like crazy nonstop for several weeks and then not touch it for 5 years.
Yeah, those are dangerous because it almost feels like a chore at that point. Like you're
Yeah,
not even getting enjoyment out of it. You're just like, I need to check this box, so I need to get it done. Yeah.
Yep. This last weekend I was playing Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and it's a great game, But I start getting into the like, okay, I got to go collect all these little notes and all this other stuff, and I'm spending like hours just running around this little island picking up little things, and at the end I'm like, I didn't do anything. This is dumb. I quit. Like, and then I'm back into the next day.
Has that feeling ever trickled over into the content creation side where you're just like, all right, I got to get this done. Let me check this box. It's not necessarily what I want to do, but I want to check the box.
I feel that sometimes later in playthroughs, like right now I'm a little bit later in the Primal Fear playthrough, and I love that mod, but because like if you do a playthrough, you're going so much slower than everyone else on the server, so everyone else has already beat the mod and gone, and like there's a bunch of abandoned bases all over the map. But because I play on the server with the patrons, but they they're all moved on by now, so I'm like there's like me and like one or two other people on the map, and it's pretty quiet and lonely, and I'm like, oh man, I want to start a new mod, but I got to finish this playthrough. And early arc is best arc, so it's you want to get into a new playthrough.
Yeah, early and mid game and arc is best, hands down. Yeah, end game is good, but it just it doesn't last very long. Yeah, the end game you get kind of topped out pretty quickly. Yeah, I felt like that with a few games sometimes where I was putting content out for it, and maybe sometimes when it was a game that like its views was like just absolute trash, but I was like, man, I told myself I was going to do this, so I need to finish it. And I think Raft might have been one of them. I don't think very many people wanted to watch Rafts at all, and I completely understand. It's not a hugely exciting game, but I jumped into it because I thought it would have been fun. And then I was like 6 or 7 episodes in, I was like, well, I gotta finish it now. And so you kind of
you've already committed. We already committed. We got to finish this. No, that's what I did. The same thing with Subnautica. I love that game. It's a great game, but I think even now, years later, I don't think any of the videos have over 100 views. Like that was like one of my early series, but it was definitely rough.
Yeah, definitely. Some of mine were like that too. And I mean, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like sometimes that plays against me. Where in truth, what I really probably should have done is tried it out, and when it didn't do well, I should have just walked away from it and tried something else, because that could have been time I could have been investing into making something that might have done better. I don't know if you feel that way at all, though.
No, I agree completely. I spent like a week and a half on Sons of the Forest, and it didn't do anything for me. Like it just, I don't think the play style for that and me mesh well together, and it just wasn't something that people on my channel wanted to see. And then I switched over to the Infected, and then the views took off. So I was like, okay, all right, I'm in a good feedback loop. I will keep doing this.
Yeah, you just kind of you just gotta keep trying different stuff, and man, that can be frustrating. Have you ever like found a game where you're just like, I really freaking love this, and you were expecting it to do really well and it just kind of fell over?
I found games like that where I would watch someone else play it. There's a guy named Corrales. There's a friend like Slipgator, and them. He does a bunch of those. I don't even know what you call them, like the top down, like world builder type ones, where you like, you start with like a small tribe and you build a town, and then build several towns, and like a
strategy game.
Yeah, like a Sim City, but more like fantasy or other stuff.
Yeah,
he would play a game like that,
or Age of Empire, or something like that.
Yeah. So I did one of those on the channel, and I was like, man, I'm so excited for this, but I wasn't good at presenting it, because when I watched him, he made it look so fun, he made it look so easy, and then when I'm playing it, like as I'm playing it, I'm getting bored of myself playing it. I'm like, this just isn't good. Like, so I've had it that way, I've had a few like that, where Satisfactory is one where I love that game. It's so much fun, but it's hard to make that come across in a video. Some of the really big guys that do it well, but
yeah, I wonder if sometimes that's not the game though, to a degree as well, because there's not, and maybe it's just been a minute since I've actually checked that game out, but there's not a whole lot of like action to that, right? Like, it's very much build real enemies, and create and do all that. Yeah. It makes me wonder if sometimes people are just like looking for that too sometimes, which I feel like is probably why Arc does really well with people that play survival games, because it offers a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's why we always come back to it. Like it's the one game where you can do literally everything. You want to build, go be a builder. You want to breed a bunch of dinos, go do that. You want to go tame things. You want to go through some caves and die a lot, like whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah,
it's all there.
I'm sure I'll be back to it one day, just not anytime soon.
Yeah.
I'm taking a vacation away from Mark for a while.
Well, and I think that'll hopefully, you know, kind of reignite your love for it if you go back to it later on anyway.
I think so.
You know, go back to, or like if you decide to jump into the Ark Ascended that's supposedly allegedly coming.
Yeah. I'm not gonna hold my breath there.
No, that's why we haven't even seen anything from that yet, and we're getting we're about to hit June tomorrow.
Yeah, I think for me right now, I'm gonna focus on this because I'm really enjoying this and the conversations I get to have.
Yeah,
and then I want to probably slowly start doing live stream again. But the nice thing about live stream is it's really more about connecting with the people that are there and less about what I'm actually playing to a lot of degree.
Yeah.
So I can just kind of pick up whatever and just kind of play with it. And as long as I'm chit-chatting with people, it usually works out pretty well.
I got you. Yeah, I saw on your channel that you have a separate section now for podcasts. That's awesome. Like it,
yeah,
it says videos, shorts, podcasts. Like, that's awesome. Does it still work the same way, like information wise, when you set the video up?
Yeah, it looks like it does for the most part. I don't really know. I think it's just an easier way for people to search for podcasts. Really, I think that's all it really comes down to. Which I don't know if it's specifically aimed at helping people find podcasts or simply people that are just looking for longer form content. Like, I'd be curious to know what would happen if like I took one of my supercuts and put it in the podcast thing. Like, what would happen? Like, I'm curious to know if exactly. I'm sure it probably boils down to tags and stuff like that, but. Yeah, I did a whole new playlist, and there's a lot of other people that have expressed interest in talking. So I've been like, this could be really fun. So
yeah,
fun with it so far.
Take the ball and run with it. I think it is a good thing, and I think you should look into applying for like Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts, like the other places where you can upload it. And it'd be and you would do probably just audio only, but upload those over there and.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that as well. I actually started putting them on Rumble as well. I started
nice. I just created an account over there a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so I started Rumble. I created a Rumble account, created a Kick account. I wanted to make sure I had my name on stuff where I could. But yeah, I think that would be the other option too, is to really just put it anywhere there's podcasts. Like you know, what is it still on iTunes? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Something
still
like
on that. Yeah.
I hear other YouTubers talk about it.
I probably should put that stuff out there. Absolutely. I think I need to look more into that. I know with Rumble, I had a problem, and I don't know if it's just because I had a new account or whatever, but I was limited as far as the file size of the videos. So I couldn't actually put the first video out. I'll be able to now that I understand what's going on. I really just need to just reprocess it at a slightly lower resolution. And then it'll be smaller, and I can just drop it in there. But yeah, I probably do need to look at it, putting that out into a couple of other places, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely look into that soon too. I want to throw it out there a few places.
I feel like it can't hurt at this point. At first, I kind of thought maybe I just needed to be solely YouTube, only YouTube, all the time YouTube, and now I'm kind of like, what's the reward for doing that? I'm not tied down, right? Like I feel like some other platforms say if you do that, you can't use your content elsewhere. Where I'm not tied down to any of that, so I might as well use it. Like, why not?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's kind of something that I would probably advise any content creator do too as well. Because again, I felt like I had to be YouTube all the time, every time YouTube, and not really. Like, what reason do I have to do that? It only helps for me to have those videos on everywhere that I could potentially have them at. So
yeah, I know I had people join the Discord a few times that they're like, "Oh yeah, I saw some of your posts over on Instagram," and I was like, "Oh, I haven't posted there in a year. I should go back and post some more stuff." And
I don't have an Instagram, and I hardly ever use Twitter, and I need to get better about that. But I don't, for the same reason you talked about it. I don't really have much of interest in it, but I think it would behoove me to do that.
If you keep your window small there, it's not bad. If you start like getting all the other news and everything else going on, then it kind of defeats what I'm trying to do there. Because this is just the TBF Gaming accounts, not Nathan's account. Like I want to just see stuff that's gaming related, talk to other gamers, follow developers. That's a big one. Follow a bunch of developers. So
right on.
That's been a good focus.
Yeah. All right. Last question, and it's completely up to you whether or not you want to answer it. TBF, where'd that come from?
Oh, but actually, I think it says on my Patreon. It's the Brown family. It was just me and my son wanted to create something, and we're like, well, what do we call it? And we went through names for like a day or two, and we're like, I don't know, we're the Brown family. Let's just put the Brown family. So yeah,
Yeah.
just nothing super special, just TBF. If you ask
I'm
people in the comments, it stands for the bowl of failure. It stands for the the best fails.
The best
There's a few,
fails. Oh
there's
man, I didn't even think of
there's
that one.
there's some pretty good ones out there.
It's funny how the community will just fill in those acronyms for you whenever they choose.
Oh, 100%,
That's
100%.
fun. Oh man, we're only listen. We are almost at like a 2.5 hour mark, and I just realized what time it was. I need to take my ass to bed. So
Yeah, definitely, man. I appreciate you letting me come on, man. I think this is a really cool thing you're starting.
no, absolutely. I really appreciate you hanging out and talking with me this long. I got a lot out of that actually. I really liked that the great is the enemy of good comment. I think that's incredibly accurate. I've actually never heard that before. You still there?
Yeah. No, I just didn't want to cut you off. I have a
Oh,
tendency to
sorry.
cut
No,
off
no,
too
no.
much.
Yeah, no. Oh no, you're fine. Yeah. It was just that. Yeah, that great versus good. Like how did you word that again?
Yeah, great is the enemy of good.
Enemy of good. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
never actually heard that worded that way. It makes a lot of sense. I like that. But yeah, probably look to see this in the next couple weeks. I'm trying to do these in like 2 week intervals, unless I get like a really crazy lined up schedule of people that want to do this,
Yeah.
then maybe I'll do it every week. But yeah, thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Good luck to you.
Have a fantastic night.
Bye.
See ya.